cloth on the basket and took out the things she brought back one by one. Mom, look what I brought back for you. We can have all-you-can-eat meat for lunch today. Eat white flour buns. Everyone in the yard stretched their necks to look over. It's not a big deal to look at it, but everyone showed envy and regret. 2 pounds of pork, an old hen, and 30 eggs. These things are enough for more than a dozen people in their Xia family to eat for 10 days. It's a pity that Xia Shuangshan just said that he wants to split up the family, and these meat, chickens, and eggs will not be theirs. Lu Hongmei and Sun Yuxiu drooled with envy and turned around and slapped their son in the face twice. 2 brainless idiots. You are so short-sighted. You only see the white flour buns?
Look.
Now you can't eat the old hen, pork, and eggs that are right in front of you. If it weren't for these 2 stealing, all the things Xia Huanhuan brought back would have been theirs. Xia Chunkai and Xia Chuanhua burst into tears again, crying and complaining. Wow. Mom. Why did you hit me? You told me that my second aunt was heating up the buns and asked me to eat them. When Lu Hongmei and Sun Yuxiu heard this, they slapped them in the face again. You idiot. Your mom. I never said that. Xia Huanhuan looked at the farce in the yard and felt very comfortable. Lin Yiru and Xia Shuangshan stared at the things on the table with their eyes wide open. After a long time, Lin Yiru asked, Wanner, why did you bring so many things back? Where did you get so many things? Does your in-laws know? Otherwise, you should take them back. What if your in-laws know and they beat and scold you? Xia Huanhuan laughed and said, Mom, you worry too much. These are all bought with my husband's allowance. We have separated from my mother-in-law. He has an allowance of 40 yuan a month. In the future, he will give me 30 yuan and let me spend it as I want. The people in the yard heard it, and their faces showed more shock and jealousy. What did you say? How much is given to you a month? Li Cuehua asked in a lost voice. 30 yuan?
No. Absolutely impossible.
Didn't Lulan say that her son's allowance was only 5 yuan a month?
How could it be 40 yuan?
Sun Yuxiu said in a lost heart. If she had known that Li Zhan had so many allowances every month, would it be Xia Huanhuan's turn to marry him? She would have directly married her daughter Xia Lanlan to live a widow. No. Enjoy a peaceful life. 40 yuan. This amount of money is enough for them to live comfortably for a year. What's more, it's 40 yuan a month. Her daughter Xia Lanlan, who was standing by, was already jealous and mad.
Why?
Why is Xia Huanhuan so lucky? She married a disabled and infertile husband, but got a monthly allowance of 30 yuan. Why didn't she marry him in the first place? Lin Yiru also looked at her daughter in shock. What you said is true? Xia Huanhuan smiled. Of course it is true. Mom, let's not talk about this. Hurry up and cook for me. I'm almost starving. Just roast 1 pound of this meat and make a plate of braised pork. Smoke the remaining 1 pound, then hang it up and make it into air-dried meat, which will not go bad and can be eaten in winter. The old hen is not big, so just roast it all and make it into carrot and chicken soup. There are also eggs, so fry 5 or 6 eggs. Just make these 2 dishes and 1 soup. Cook some cornmeal and sweet potato porridge and heat up some mixed noodles and wild vegetable steamed buns, and our family of 3 will be full. The whole family in the yard drooled just by listening, but Xia Huanhuan obviously did not include them in this meal. Lu Hongmei was the first one who couldn't help herself. She took a few steps forward with a drooling face and said with a smile, Second sister-in-law, you can't handle so many dishes by yourself, right? Let me help you cook. Sun Yuxiu was stunned for a moment, then rushed over, pushing Lu Hongmei aside and said, Yes, second sister-in-law. I'll help you. My cooking skills are much better than that of the eldest sister-in-law. Xia Huanhuan looked at them with a sneer. Annie, third aunt, why do I remember that it has always been my mother who cooks for the whole family? I have never seen you enter the kitchen. Lu Hongmei and Sun Yuxiu's faces immediately turned red and white, which looked very beautiful. They smiled apologetically. Huan, look at what you are saying. Aren't we not as good at cooking as your mom? That's why we gave Xian to your mom. But in the future, we will definitely learn from your mom and help her cook. Xia Huanhuan smiled coldly. I don't think we need to help. My mom will only cook for my dad and herself in the future. From now on, you, your husband, son, and daughter will have to cook 3 meals a day. Lu Hongmei and Sun Yuxiu understood what Xia Huanhuan meant. That is, they would have to cook in the future and Lin Yuru, the free nanny, would be gone. They were so angry that their hearts ached. Xia Huanhuan, how come you have become so aggressive and difficult to deal with after you got married? Do you still know how to respect the elderly and love the young? Li Cuihua recovered from the shock of the 30 yuan and took over the 2 daughters-in-law to argue with Xia Huanhuan. Xia Huanhuan glared at her coldly and said, I respect the old and love the young, but can I respect you as much as your grandmother, who almost beat me to death on the day I got married? If you want people to respect the elderly so much, why don't you ask your precious eldest son and third son's grandchildren to do it? Don't try to provoke me. Li Cuihua really didn't expect that this granddaughter, who had always had a soft-spoken personality, would become so sharp-tongued after getting married. She was so angry that she almost died. She pointed at Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru and cursed, Second brother, look at the good daughter taught by your wife, who doesn't lay eggs. She even dares to talk back to me, her grandmother. After all, I am your mother. What? You eat meat, eggs, and fish soup, and you plan to let your mother eat steamed buns? Li Cuihua said, while looking at the red and white pork and big fish on the table, as well as a bamboo basket of eggs with envy. She hasn't eaten meat for 3 days. In ancient times, filial sons would cut their own thigh meat for their mothers to eat. What's wrong with you? Are you planning to not respect your mother at all? Xia Shuangshan was stunned for a moment. Living under the tyranny of Li Cuihua for many years, he subconsciously wanted to turn around and pick up the 2 pounds of meat on the table and give it to Li Cuihua. Xia Huanhuan sighed in anger, grabbed Xia Shuangshan's sleeve, and said coldly, Dad, these meats, fish, and eggs are all my filial piety to you and my mother. If my grandma wants to show her filial piety, let her 2 sons show her filial piety. If you dare to give it to her, I will never come to this door again. Her father is weak today, then it will only be a matter of time before Li Cuihua bullies him again. Xia Shuangshan reacted and slapped himself hard. He just woke up for a while and he made a mistake again? Don't you think that his family and daughter are not bullied enough? He looked up at Li Cuihua and said coldly, Mom, I just said it. After we separate, I will give you $1 a month. I gave you 40 cents last night. I will give you another 60 cents tomorrow. If you want to eat meat, you can ask the eldest brother and the third brother to buy it for you, or you can buy it yourself. Anyway, forget about the meat my daughter sent. Li Cuihua was so angry that she couldn't say a word. Here, Xia Huanhuan didn't want to argue with them anymore, so she took Lin Yuru to the kitchen with the ingredients.
Mom,
I'll help you cook. Seeing that no one paid attention to them, the other people in the Xia family also left with cold faces. After a while, the braised pork, scrambled eggs, and old hen radish soup were ready. The aroma of meat drifted in the air, making the stomachs of the other people in the Xia family growl. Xia Huanhuan and Lin Yuru took the food back to their room. Looking at the sumptuous lunch, Lin Yuru was still a little bit unbelievable. These dishes and rice. Are they really only for the 3 of us? In the past, she always cooked for the whole family, but she and Xia Shuangshan were the last to eat. Every time when their second room ate, they could leave them some steamed bread and some porridge, which was good enough. If there were any dishes, there would only be soup left. This was the first time in so many years that she saw a table full of sumptuous food. Xia Huanhuan hugged Lin Yuru's shoulders, asked her to sit down at the table, put the chopsticks in her hand, and smiled. Mom, you also said that there are 3 of us in our family, so are we going to let outsiders come to eat? This chicken soup is very delicious. I'll serve you a bowl and get you a big chicken leg. Xia Huanhuan said, picked up the bowl, and filled a bowl of chicken soup for Lin Yuru.
Hey.
Lin Yuru agreed, but couldn't help but lifted the corner of her clothes to wipe her tears. Seeing this, Xia Shuangshan couldn't help but said, Oh, don't cry. What will happen if our daughter sees it? Eat quickly.
From now on,
we don't have to support that big family. We can have a meal like this every now and then. Lin Yuru wiped her tears and said, I wasn't crying. I just suddenly thought of your poor brother. If he hadn't been washed away by the flood that year, I wouldn't have been bullied by them so much over the years. Xia Huanhuan sighed and smiled. Why do you mention my brother again? Don't you still have me, your daughter? Don't worry, I will take care of you in your old age in the future. Xia Shuangshan lowered his head and ate the food in silence, and then said, Wana, you don't have to bring back so many things like today in the future. After all, you are married. Once or twice is okay, but if you bring more, your husband and your in-laws will definitely not be happy. Your mother and I are still able to work and can support ourselves in our old age. Xia Huanhuan was moved when she heard this. After this cheap father came to his senses, he was quite reasonable.
Dad.
Don't worry about these things. My man can give me all 30 yuan so I can use it at will. If he dares to say anything, I will divorce him. Besides, I just took so many things today because I went back to my parents' home. How can I send you things like this every day? She said this deliberately, naturally to make Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru not have psychological burdens and feel that they are her burdens. When the family was having dinner, there was suddenly another commotion in the Xia family yard. Grandma.
Mom.
Come out quickly. It's Fong Fong who is back from the winter vacation at the university.
Xia Dazuan et celle d'Est sont Xia Shangjian Shuted.
Xia Huanhuan turned her head and saw Xia Dazhuang's daughter, her cousin Xia Fongfong. The college entrance examination was resumed in 1977, so it's still early now. Therefore, Xia Fongfong went to the university recommended by poor and lower middle peasants, which was actually a more advanced literacy class. Speaking of which, this place recommended to go to university should have originally belonged to the original owner.
It was 2 years ago.
The only cow used for plowing in the commune suddenly ran away. Everyone in the commune was looking for it, but they couldn't find it. It was the original owner who searched for a day and a night, found the cow on the mountain, and brought it back. In order to commend her, the commune gave the original owner the quota for going to college in the village. Unfortunately, this matter changed when it came to the Xia family. Li Tsuehua loved Xia Fongfong the most on weekdays, so she made the decision arbitrarily and let Xia Fongfong replace the original owner to go to college. Although the original owner disagreed in her heart, no one in the family cared about her ideas, and in the end she could only suffer in silence. When Lin Yuru and Xia Shuangshan heard about Xia Fongfong's return, they showed ashamed expressions on their faces. At the beginning, when Li Tsuehua arbitrarily asked Xia Fongfong to replace Huanhuan, they did not firmly protect their daughter, which caused the quota to be snatched away, and Xia Huanhuan also lost the opportunity to change her destiny. At that time, if you were recommended to go to college, you would also be given a diploma and arranged a job after graduation. After graduation, she can change her rural household registration to urban household registration and eat commercial grain. If she had not been replaced, her daughter would be a city dweller in the future. How could she marry a disabled man? Although the man has a lot of military allowances, Huanhuan will still be a widow for the rest of her life? Lin Yuru looked at Xia Huanhuan with shame and said softly, Wana, your father and I are sorry for you. Xia Shuangshan clenched his fists tightly and lowered his head apologetically. At that time, he was really blinded by greed. How could he let Li Tsuehua manipulate him and not think about his daughter at all? Xia Huanhuan was stunned for a moment. Then she realized that the two were referring to the fact that her college quota was replaced, so she smiled and said, Dad, Mom, don't feel too guilty. I have long forgotten about that quota. And you see, am I not living a good life? My husband gave me so many allowances. Even if I go to college, my monthly salary is not that much. Besides, I may have a chance to go to college in the future. In another 5 or 6 years, the college entrance examination will be restored. Before Xia Huanhuan came here, she was a top student and she would definitely take the college entrance examination at that time. After graduating from college, she will be a cadre and the assigned work will be at the management and leadership level, which is more valuable than the current recommendation to go to college. Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru were moved to tears when they saw that Xia Huanhuan did not blame them at all and comforted them. Lin Yuru said, "Yes. Let's not talk about the unhappy things in the past. In the future, our family of 3 will definitely live a better and better life, 1,000 times better than those people." In the yard, hearing Xia Chuanjin's words, Li Cuehua, Lu Hongmei, and Xia Dazhuang all hurried out to welcome Xia Fangfang into the house. Xia Sanqi and Sun Yuxiu's family went back to their own rooms with cold faces. Especially Xia Lanlan. At the beginning, she also wanted to go to college, but her grandmother favored her cousin Xia Fangfang, so she didn't get her turn. She was so jealous that she wanted to tear Xia Fangfang's face apart, so how could she welcome Xia Fangfang back? When Xia Huanhuan's family was eating, Xia Fangfang suddenly walked in, smiling gently, and said, "Huanhuan, I just heard that you got married, and I almost thought I heard it wrong. Is it your turn to visit your parents today? You guys had a really sumptuous meal. Second uncle and second aunt. Grandma hasn't eaten yet, so she asked me to bring her some braised pork and chicken soup. Second aunt's cooking skills are really good. When I saw the dishes on the table, I wasn't hungry at first, but now my stomach is growling with hunger." Xia Fangfang said, looking at the greasy honey-colored braised pork, the old hen soup with oil, and the yellow scrambled eggs on the table with a greedy look on her face. She thought that after all, she had just come back, and since that was what she said, Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru should invite her to eat together. At the very least, they could give her a bowl to serve some food and let her take it back. Unfortunately, after hearing what she said, Xia Shuangshan and Xia Huanhuan didn't even look up at her. Lin Yuru glanced at her, then turned back to look at her husband and daughter, and lowered her head to continue eating. The scene was very awkward for a while. However, Xia Fangfang had a thick skin since she was a child. After waiting for a while, she coughed twice again and said, "Hey Huanhuan, I actually feel very sorry for you. I heard that the husband you married can't have children? If you hadn't taken the initiative to give me the place to go to college, you might not have lived a life of carefreeness in the future." "Oh, look at what I said. Huanhuan, you won't blame me for gossiping, right?" Xia Huanhuan glanced at her coldly, and then said, "I will. Since you know that you are gossiping, then shut up. What are you talking about?" Xia Fangfang was stunned. From childhood to adulthood, Xia Huanhuan never dared to talk back to her. Why did she speak so harshly today? Is it true that she is arrogant just because she has money? Humph. Isn't it great to have 30 yuan? And it's not by a man? It's not that she earned it herself. What's the point of being so arrogant? Besides, who said that I took the initiative to give you the place? You took it away rudely. Don't think I don't know that you have been pestering Grandma behind her back and mobilizing your whole family to fight for this place. Why are you pretending to be a white lotus now? With your charcoal-like skin, you can't pretend even if you wanna. Xia Fangfang. Xia Fangfang was so angry that her liver hurt. Xia Huanhuan, I came to see you with good intentions. How can you talk like that? Do you know that I can stay in the city and work as a worker after graduation? Don't come to me for help in the future. Xia Huanhuan sneered. Please? I'd rather beg a dog than you. Stop flattering yourself. Also, future workers? You're going to my house to beg for food or what? Didn't your mother teach you? Don't come to visit other people's families when they're having dinner. You have no manners at all. I think you've gone to college for nothing. You're a disgrace to our commune. These words made Xia Fangfang blush, and she opened her mouth for a long time, but couldn't say a word back. After a long time, she turned around and ran back to her home in tears, crying and shouting fiercely, "Xia Huanhuan, just wait. I will definitely marry a city man in the future, who will earn several times more than you if you marry that disabled man. See how arrogant you are."
夏尖尖冷笑，也抬高声音道：“你爱嫁谁嫁谁娶，只要人家看得上你。搁我这叫嚣什么呢？简直笑死人了！”夏芳芳气得跑回自家屋里，趴在床上哭得震山响。这要是以前，夏大壮和刘红梅还有李翠花见夏芳芳委屈成这样，只怕早就骂骂咧咧堵到二房门口，不打夏尖尖10几拐棍，都不带善罢甘休的。只可惜今天夏双山冷面阎罗似的站在门口， 一副谁敢来找茬就揍得他满地找牙的气势。夏大壮和李翠花、刘红梅那几个怂货，怂得窝在屋里，大气都不敢出一个。吃过了午饭，夏尖尖便起身打算回去了。
Ta chân sha song sun her linguru langren bujo, he took out a pound of flour, a pound of cornmeal, and a pound of sweet potato flour from the space, and left them for them. Although Lin Yuru refused, she couldn't resist in the end and accepted it. The two sent Xia Huanhuan all the way to the village entrance and watched her walk a long way before going back. As soon as Xia Huanhuan walked to the edge of Qingshui village, she saw a familiar figure pulling with a man and quickly hid in the bushes on the side. At first glance, wasn't it Li Zhan's sister, her sister-in-law Li Qiaoqiao? Li Qiaoqiao shyly stuffed a bamboo basket into Su Jiayuan. Brother Jiayuan, here is half a pound of meat and 3 eggs. I brought them from home specifically for you to improve your life. You are an intellectual, and farm work is so tiring, you need to eat more to replenish your body. Su Jiayuan declined several times, but finally accepted it reluctantly, looking at Li Qiaoqiao lovingly and said, Qiaoqiao, you are so good to me. Don't worry, I will never let you down when I return to the city. As he said that, he leaned over and kissed Li Qiaoqiao on the cheek. Li Qiaoqiao's face turned red, and she lowered her head and played with the corner of her clothes shyly, and said, Brother Jiayuan, you are the best. I will bring you some white flour buns in a few days. As she said that, she turned her head and was about to run away shyly, but Su Jiayuan grabbed her and held her in his arms. Qiaoqiao, why are you in such a hurry to leave? I kissed you.
And you are so shy. Huh?
Xia Huanhuan got goosebumps all over the floor. This Su Jiayuan is really not a good person. He tricked and attacked the original owner last time, and now he is trying to trick Li Qiaoqiao. However, although this Li Qiaoqiao is her sister-in-law, she's been married for a few days, and every time Li Qiaoqiao sees her, she rolls her eyes to the sky and never calls her fourth sister-in-law once. She is the same as her mother Lu Lan, so she doesn't bother to care about these trivial matters. She waited until Li Qiaoqiao and Su Jiayuan went into the grove at the edge of the village, then she came out of the bushes and walked towards her home. She didn't know if the 3 kids were well behaved at home and whether they had enough for lunch. Although she was based on the past few days' history, Jia and Zhou Qiuhua's performance made her feel that they were honest and kind and were grateful, so she entrusted the 3 kids to them. However, when faced with interests, not everyone can keep their original intentions. This was also the purpose of her giving Zhou Qiuhua so many supplies in the morning. If the 3 kids have meat for lunch, it means that the 3rd family can still be trusted. If they are not willing to eat the meat and take it for themselves, then they will just have to maintain a decent appearance in the future. Before she got home, she heard Wang Guixiang screaming in a ghostly voice.
Oh,
it's so unfair. There's a thief in my house. And it's a domestic thief. The half caddy of meat I just bought was hung on the eaves of someone else's house to be made into bacon in such a blatant manner. Xia Huanhuan frowned slightly when she heard this, and saw Wang Guixiang blocking her door, crying and making a fuss. There was also a group of middle-aged village women surrounding her, all of whom were close to Wang Guixiang. They pointed at Zhou Qiuhua, who was standing aside. It's true what the old saying says. No matter how careful you are, you can't guard against a thief in your own home. I didn't expect that the new daughter-in-law of the Li family is actually a thief. That's right. Half a caddy of meat is so precious. We are lucky to be able to eat it once a year. If you steal someone else's, your mouth will get sore after eating it. I think it might be that Zhou Qiuhua stole it. I smelled the aroma of meat coming from their house at noon. Zhou Qiuhua protected the 3 little guys and explained weakly with a bit of helplessness. Big sister-in-law, this half caddy of meat was given to me by Huanhuan this morning, and she asked me to take care of the lunch of the 3 little guys. I fried half a pound of meat, and I wanted to make the remaining half a pound into bacon for her so that it would be easier to preserve. I hung it here to dry. I really didn't take it from your house. Wang Guixiang jumped up, pointed at Zhou Qiuhua's nose and cursed. Zhou Qiuhua, you fence-sitter. What's the matter? You didn't take it from my house? How can you prove it? Anyway, the half-pound of meat and 3 eggs in my house are gone. You didn't steal them? Then it means you or Xia Huanhuan instructed these 3 brats to sneak into my house and steal them. Anyway, you can't escape from your family of thieves. Get out of the way now, I'll go in and search the house. I'm sure I'll find those 3 eggs. If I do, let's see how you can argue. Li Wen, who was protected in Zhou Qiuhe's arms, suddenly broke free, opened his arms to block the door, and shouted, "This is my house. I won't let you go in. My house is not a den of thieves. Who wants to steal your meat? I'm afraid of getting a stomachache if I eat it." When Li Wu and Li Beibei heard their brother speak, they also rushed over, opened their short hands to protect the door, clenched their fists, and shouted fiercely, "Second aunt is bad. My family doesn't steal things. Second aunt is a bad person." Wang Guixiang was pointed at and scolded by the 3 little guys, and she was almost mad to death. Oh my God. You've learned to be so eloquent? This is going to be outrageous. As she was talking, her 8-year-old son Li Sheng suddenly rushed over, pushed Li Wen to the ground, and said arrogantly, "Li Wen, get out of the way, or I'll beat you up." Li Wen was only 5 years old, and his height was almost 1/3 shorter than Li Sheng. He was pushed down, and his forehead hit the door sill. His fair forehead started bleeding. However, he still glared at Li Sheng, who was taller and stronger than him, and said crisply, "No. This is my house. You can't go in if my mother is not at home." "Xiaowen!" Zhou Qiuhe exclaimed, and wanted to come up to protect her, but it was too late. Seeing that Li Wen was not convinced, Li Sheng clenched his fists and was about to hit Li Wen, shouting, "Your mother? You have lost your mother a long time ago. This mother is a fake. She just wants your house too." At the same time, Wang Guixiang also rushed up, pretending to grab Li Wu and Li Beibei's arms and force her way in. Xia Huanhuan was so angry that she rushed up and grabbed Wang Guixiang's hair and pulled it back. Wang Guixiang lost her balance in pain and fell on her ace with a cry of ouch, ouch. Then, she turned around, grabbed Li Sheng's little fist that was about to swing down and threw it down. Li Sheng also fell to the ground and started crying. Originally, Xia Huanhuan didn't want to hit the child no matter how angry she was. Of course, she didn't hit him, she just pushed him. But this Li Sheng was too arrogant. He pushed Li Wen down and injured his head. It would have been fine if he didn't stop after being afraid, but he clenched his fist and wanted to continue hitting people. It's outrageous. He's like this at the age of 8. What will he be like when he grows up? Li Wu and Li Beibei had been trying to protect their new home while suppressing their fear and sadness. Now, seeing Xia Huanhuan coming back, they pouted their lips and couldn't help but rush up to hug Xia Huanhuan's legs, shouting "Mom, Mom," and crying in grievance. When Li Wen saw Xia Huanhuan coming back, tears welled up in his eyes, but he still stubbornly held back and didn't let the tears flow. Xia Huanhuan glanced coldly at Wang Guixiang on the ground. "Second sister-in-law, you're saying without any evidence that my family stole half a pound of meat and 3 eggs from your family? I also said that you stole a bicycle from my family. Otherwise, you return the bicycle to me, and I will return half a pound of meat and 3 eggs to you without saying a word. How about that?" Wang Guixiang immediately got furious when she heard it, jumped up and pointed at Xia Huanhuan and cursed, "Xia Huanhuan, you are slandering me. Where is the bicycle in your house? How could I steal such a big thing from you? Don't even think about throwing dirty water on me." Xia Huanhuan sneered. "Second sister-in-law, what are you saying? You said that I stole your meat and eggs, and you blocked my door and cursed at me, and even let your son beat my Xiaowen. If I say that you stole my bicycle, is that throwing dirty water on you? Second sister-in-law, you are so shameless." Wang Guixiang said angrily, "How can it be the same? There is still half a pound of meat hanging on your eaves, which is the evidence. You must have those 3 eggs in your house. Who has ever seen the bicycle you mentioned?" Xia Huanhuan was not panicked and said calmly, "Why? Your family is allowed to buy meat, but my family is not? You say it's yours, so it's yours? There are 5 or 6 people in your house. Are they all blind? Your Li Sheng and Li Jiaojiao have not been seen going out to work all day, and the meat you bought is kept in your house. Who has taken it away? I'm afraid they know who took it, but they are just making up lies and want to blackmail my family. According to the number and category of things lost as described by Wang Guixiang, and thinking about the scene just seen at the entrance of the village, Xia Huanhuan already had a bottom line in her heart. How about this? If you insist that my family stole yours, call the commune secretary, the village head, and all the neighbors in the village, and let's have a good talk. Whoever tells a lie must kneel down and apologize to the other party, and pay 10 kilograms of meat as psychological loss compensation. Don't expect this matter to have a good ending. Wang Guixiang's face turned pale when she heard it. She was not afraid of kneeling down to apologize, but paying 10 kilograms of meat would cost 9 yuan, which was her family's expenses for several months. Xia Huanhuan had a subsidy, so she could afford the gamble, but she couldn't afford to pay. Besides, she saw that the meat and eggs in the house were gone, and she saw that there was meat hanging under Xia Huanhuan's eaves, so she ran over to make trouble, thinking that if she made trouble, Xia Huanhuan would probably give her the meat and eggs for the sake of face. She was really not sure whether it was someone in Xia Huanhuan's room who did it. Wang Guixiang turned to look at her son Li Sheng and daughter Li Jiaojiao. You two were in the house. Did you see who came in and took the meat away? Li Sheng cried and said, No. I didn't see it.
It was
my aunt who came in once in the afternoon. Li Jiaojiao pulled her mother's clothes and whispered, Mom, I saw it was my aunt. But my aunt told me to say that it was Xia Wen and the others who did it, and said that if I said that, fourth aunt would have to compensate us twice as much meat. The 6-year-old Li Jiaojiao was obviously as stupid as her mother, and she said everything at once. At this moment, Wang Guixiang's face was very good. She suddenly raised her hand and gave her daughter a big slap in the face, and scolded angrily, You blind thing, why didn't you say it earlier? Li Jiaojiao burst into tears immediately after being beaten. When the people who had originally supported Wang Guixiang saw the situation turned around, they all looked embarrassed and slipped away while gossiping. Wang Guixiang glared at Xia Huanhuan fiercely, and then she turned her ace to go back to her room. But Xia Huanhuan shouted calmly, Wait a minute. Wang Guixiang turned around and said fiercely, You didn't steal, so what else do you want to do? Xia Huanhuan sneered. Second sister-in-law, you said that lightly. My family was wrongly accused of being a den of thieves for no reason, and Xiaowen's head was broken by your son. You want to run away without saying a word? There is no such good thing in the world. Wang Guixiang felt guilty. She had also seen Xia Huanhuan's power in the past 2 days. She was scared and yelled, What do you want? I won't ask you for more money for Xiaowen's injury treatment. Just $1, give it to me. Otherwise, I will go to the commune to sue you for false accusation. Xia Huanhuan didn't lack this $1, but if Wang Guixiang didn't pay the price, such things would definitely happen again in the future. Just $1. She was tolerant enough. Wang Guixiang's face changed drastically. She thought about how Song Xiuyue, her uncle, and the educated youth who dared to frame Xia Huanhuan yesterday were all arrested by the county. She didn't dare to report the matter to the commune. But she lost the meat and eggs, and she had to pay $1. She felt too aggrieved. I don't have $1 to give you. That's none of my business. Anyway, you can't send the $1 before tomorrow morning, so you can deal with the consequences yourself. After Xia Huanhuan said that, she ignored Wang Guixiang and took the 3 kids back to the house. Wang Guixiang stamped her feet in anxiety. Suddenly, an idea flashed in her mind. The meat and eggs were stolen by her sister-in-law Li Qiaoqiao. Now she had to pay $1 because of Li Qiaoqiao. She definitely couldn't pay for it herself. Wang Guixiang looked at Lu Lan's room, made up her mind, and immediately ran to Lu Lan's door with her 2 children. She sat on the ground in front of the door and started crying and cursing. Oh my! This is so unfair. Not only did my things get stolen, but I have to pay $1 in compensation. I don't know what wild man stole half a pound of meat and 3 eggs from my house and gave them to him. He is such a traitor. Wang Guixiang was still afraid of Lu Lan, so she didn't dare to name Li Qiaoqiao, so she just cursed her with innuendos. At this time, Li Qiaoqiao just came back from outside. When she heard Wang Guixiang scolding, her face suddenly turned red, and then pale. At the same time, her heart couldn't help but pounding.
Could it be
that she and Su Jiyuan were seen in the woods by the second sister-in-law? Otherwise, how would she know that she stole food for the wild man? In the countryside of that era, a woman's reputation was more important than her life. Although Jiyuan had promised to marry her when he returned to the city, they were still an unmarried couple. Not only was she finished, but Jiyuan's future was also finished. With this stain on her, she might not even be able to return to the city. Her dream of becoming a worker's wife in the city would be completely over. Just when Li Qiaoqiao was terrified, Lu Lan, who had been eavesdropping in the house, suddenly opened the door and scolded in a cold voice, "Wang Guixiang, shut your stinky mouth. Look at how badly you curse. She is your husband's own sister. You want to ruin her reputation before you are satisfied, right?" Wang Guixiang shrank back when she was scolded, but then she said, "Mom, don't blame me for cursing. It's my sister-in-law who is not honest. For today's incident, if you don't pay me the half-pound of meat and 3 eggs that were stolen, and $1 to pay to Xia Huanhuan, I will risk everything to publicize the ugly thing my sister-in-law did." When Li Qiaoqiao heard this, she was so scared that she ran over and knelt in front of Lu Lan, crying and shouting, "Mom." Lu Lan was furious, but she also knew that Wang Guixiang was a firecracker. Although she had no brains, she had a loud voice. If she said she would spread it, she would really spread it. If that were the case, her daughter Qiaoqiao's life would be ruined. Her future son-in-law, an educated youth, would also be in vain. Thinking of this, Lu Lan could only stamp her feet in anger and said, "Come in with me. If I hear you swear again, I will let my son divorce you." After a while, Wang Guixiang came out with 2 yuan in her hand, satisfied. Excluding the 1 yuan she had to pay to Xia Huanhuan, half a caddy of meat was 45 cents and 3 eggs were 15 cents. In total, she still made a net profit of 40 cents. This wave is not a loss. As for Lu Lan and Li Qiaoqiao, they both put all the accounts of today on Xia Huanhuan. Especially Li Qiaoqiao. After she and Su Jiyuan entered the grove, she looked back and seemed to see a figure that looked like Xia Huanhuan. Now she heard her mother Lu Lan say that it was Xia Huanhuan who led Wang Guixiang to suspect her, and she was afraid and hateful in her heart. Xia Huanhuan must have seen her and Jiyuan.
No.
She must think of a way to shut Xia Huanhuan up, so that she dare not go out and talk nonsense. Here, Xia Huanhuan pulled the 3 kids into the house, and then pulled Xiaowen to her side to check the wound on his head. Fortunately, it was just a little skin scratch, and it was bleeding and looked a little scary, but it shouldn't leave scars in the future. Otherwise, $1 would not be enough to compensate. At least let Wang Guixiang pay $100. Zhou Qiuhe walked in and said a little helplessly, "Huanhuan, I'm sorry, it's all my fault. I didn't take good care of Xiaowen." Xia Huanhuan didn't want to blame Zhou Qiuhe now, and said, "Third sister-in-law, don't blame yourself too much. Xiaowen's injury is just a skin injury, and it should be healed in a few days. Third sister-in-law, you have been busy all day, go back first. I will take care of the 3 kids." Seeing that Xia Huanhuan had ordered her to leave, Zhou Qiuhe didn't keep her any longer and went back. Xia Huanhuan waited for her to leave before running to the inner room alone. She scooped some spiritual spring water from the space and took out iodine and Yunnan Baiyao, of course, removing the packaging. She also took out some blood stasis removing and hemostatic herbs such as Panax, Nodo Ginseng, and Madder, as well as gauze. She asked Li Wen to sit on a small stool and clean the wound with spiritual spring water first. Because of what happened when she rescued the wolf cub in the mountains last time, she actually still suspected that the spiritual spring water had some healing effect, but it was not so obvious. However, even if it doesn't matter. It will strengthen the body after all, and it is definitely free of bacteria than real water. After cleaning the wound, disinfect it with iodine. Apply Yunnan Baiyao, Panax Nodo Ginseng, and madder juice made from crushed madder on the wound, and wrap it with gauze. Although it was a minor injury, It looked scary with the gauze wrapped around the head. Xiao Wu and Bei Bei were pacing around Xiao Wen anxiously and asked worriedly, "Brother, does it hurt? If it hurts, it will fly away." Li Wen was small but very stubborn. Although tears welled up in his eyes due to the pain, he still tried to comfort his brothers and sisters. "Brother, it doesn't hurt. Don't worry about it." Xia Huanhuan bandaged the wound and said with a smile, "Today I want to praise the three of you, especially Xiaowen, for rushing out to defend your home and keeping the bad guys out. But in the future, if you meet someone you can't beat, don't confront them head on. If you can't beat them, just run away. This is called keeping the Green Mountains alive, so that you won't have to worry about firewood. Do you hear me?" Li Wen was originally praised, and his face was flushed and a little embarrassed. When he heard the second half of Xia Huanhuan's sentence, he couldn't help but muttered, "If you can't beat them, you run away. Isn't that a deserter? Women are." Hey, hey, hey. Before he could finish muttering, Xia Huanhuan hit him on the head with a chestnut. "Smelly boy. Who did you learn this from? Women? Look at what you can do." Li Wen raised his little hand to cover the place where he was hit, frowned, and looked at Xia Huanhuan resentfully. This hurt more than the wound on his forehead. But he didn't dare to protest. Xia Huanhuan clapped her hands, stood up and said, "In order to reward our little heroes, let's eat steamed fish and drink tofu fish soup tonight, okay? The fish is fresh sea bass caught from the space pond. It is delicious enough. I caught another crucian carp and took out a piece of fresh white tofu and cooked it into a pot of milky white fish soup. I also fried a dish of stir-fried cabbage with meat, served with millet porridge and big white steamed buns." Soon, dinner was on the table. Sea Base had few bones, but Xia Huanhuan still picked out the bones when she picked up the dishes for Bei Bei and Xiao Wu to prevent them from getting stuck in the throat. Xiaowen also helped his younger brothers and sisters to pick out the bones, and he was very sensible. Early the next morning, Xia Huanhuan took the half-caddy of meat from yesterday to Zhou Qiuhua's house and said with a smile, "Third sister-in-law, I didn't have time to tell you about this half-caddy of meat yesterday afternoon. Why did you bring it back to me? Didn't I say it was for you?" Zhou Qiuhua waved her hands and said, "Huan, that won't do. I fried half a pound of meat yesterday at noon, and everyone in my family ate a lot of it. How can you take this half a pound of meat for free? I smoked it for you yesterday. Just hang it under the eaves and wait for it to dry. It will be well preserved and can be eaten until next summer." Xia Huanhuan thought about Wang Guixiang's fussing and felt that Zhou Qiuhua was really a good person. She smiled and said, "Don't refuse, third sister-in-law. I still have something I need your help with. This is my thank you gift in advance. I don't know how to make samples for children's clothes, can you? I want to tear some cloth and make a few cotton padded jackets and boots for the three little guys. They will be frozen to death in the winter." Zhou Qiuhua accepted it as soon as she heard it. She immediately put down the work in her hands and said gratefully, "I can. If you trust me, buy the cloth and cotton and I can help you make it." Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "That's too much trouble, third sister-in-law. Besides, you have three little guys to take care of at home. You teach me and I can do it myself." Seeing this, Zhou Qiuhua did not force it. Sure enough, she spent the whole morning measuring the sizes of the three kids and making samples. In the afternoon, she guided Xia Huanhuan to make one. Xia Huanhuan was clever and got the hang of it quickly. In 2 or 3 days, she made a set of cotton padded jackets for each of the three kids. She also gave Zhou Qiuhua some cloth and cotton as a thank you for her help. In addition to cotton, she also stuffed a lot of duck down into the cotton padded jacket. Compared with cotton, which is heavy and not warm, duck down is much better. It looks thin, but it is very comfortable to wear. The three little kids tried on the cotton padded jackets with excitement, and they were happier than during the Chinese New Year. She didn't know how to sew soles for boots. In this remote area, the supply and marketing cooperative didn't sell high-end goods like leather boots. However, the supply and marketing cooperative should sell special light plastic soles. She planned to buy some in the town the next day and also sell some more things in the black market. Therefore, early the next morning, Xia Huanhuan entrusted the three little kids to Zhou Qiuhua again and walked towards the town. Although the town was not far away, it would take about an hour to walk there. Xia Huanhuan thought about putting the purchase of a bicycle on the agenda. Although there were second-hand bicycles of this era in Xia Huanhuan's space, a Phoenix brand bicycle of this era would cost 150 yuan. Other brands would cost 70 or 80 yuan, and it was a big item, so she couldn't take it out of her space for no reason. Otherwise, if someone had a bicycle, it would be big news, and people from all over the country would ask which supply and marketing cooperative bought the bicycle and how much it cost. Therefore, she still had to take a ticket to the supply and marketing cooperative, even the supply and marketing cooperative in the county, to buy it, leaving a record so as not to be exposed. Of course, she was now living on Li Zhan's allowance, so she had to be patient for 2 or 3 months to get the allowance sent by Li Zhan. As for the bicycles in her space, they were all Phoenix brand. Although they were second-hand, she could sell them on the black market without a bicycle ticket, and the price of a new bicycle would be even higher. However, it was difficult to find a buyer for such a big item in the town or even the county, and there was no rush. The coal stove was the same. It was getting colder day by day, and it was more urgent than the bicycle. She also had one in her space, but like the bicycle, she couldn't use it directly. She could only sell it on the black market and then get a ticket to buy it at the supply and marketing cooperative. Thinking about this, Xia Huanhuan walked to a secluded path, looked around to see if there was anyone around, and secretly took the bicycle out of her space and rode for a while. When she arrived in town, she didn't go to the supply and marketing cooperative immediately, but went directly to the black market. On the way, she had already used makeup to draw wrinkles on herself, and even wrapped her head with a green scarf, covering even her mouth, before entering the black market in the dark alley. This time, she came from the space. She took out the wild mushrooms, fungus, wolfberry, etc. that she had promised to the guests last time. These had been stored in the space, so they were still as fresh as when they were picked. In addition, there was a 3-pound-old hen, 2 wild pheasants, 50 eggs, and 50 duck eggs. She was reluctant to take out the old mountain ginseng that the snow wolf brought her to find that day, so she took out 2 ginsengs she grew in the space, both of which were 3 years old. After waiting for a while, the guest from last time really appeared, walked straight to her, looked at her with a smile, and whispered teasingly, "Well, the wrinkles today are well-drawn, quite realistic." Xia Huanhuan. She thought her makeup skills were still very good. She should be credible enough to be a middle-aged woman in her 40s or 50s. How could she be seen through by this man at a glance? Moreover, this man had a somewhat careless, cynical, and familiar feeling. Xia Huanhuan felt a little sense of crisis in her heart. I don't know what you're talking about. I picked some of the mountain products you asked for last time. Do you want more? She tried to speak in a rough voice. The man blinked his eyes and did not expose him again. He just smiled, showing his 8 neat white teeth, which was very sunny. Yes. Of course. I'll take as many as you can. There are also old hens, right? Xia Huanhuan nodded, looked around, and saw that no one was paying attention to her, so she lifted the cloth on the bamboo basket and showed him the things inside. There are 2 caddies of wild mountain mushrooms, 1 caddy of black fungus, and half a caddy of wolfberry. They are all picked from the mountains and are very fresh. They are all 60 cents per caddy. The old hens are secretly raised by my family. They are very fat, and they are egg-laying chickens. 1 is 5 yuan. There are also 2 wild pheasants, each weighing 7 or 8 tails, and each is 1 yuan. There are still 50 eggs and duck eggs. If you want all of them like last time, the price is the same as last time, a total of 8 yuan and 50. Add all of this up. Xia Huanhuan did the math quickly, then said, the total is $17 and $60. I'll give you $17. The man listened to Xia Huanhuan's calculations with interest. When she finished, he asked with a smile, "Why is there no ginseng?" Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "How can wild ginseng be so easy to come by? But my father is a doctor and I have learned a lot, so I secretly planted some ginseng in the mountains. There are 2 3-year-old ginsengs, each weighing 2 taels. Do you want them? If you want, 1 is $5, 2 are $10, and the total is $27.
The man thought about it.
Although they were not wild, ginseng was a tonic medicine after all. He didn't lack this little money, so he nodded and said, "Okay. Then I'll pay for it all. Here you go, a total of 30. I'll keep the extra $3 with you first, and it will be considered a down payment for my next purchase." Xia Huanhuan was stunned. In this age when even a dime is so precious that it can make people fight to the death, $3 can be paid in advance. This customer seems to be really rich. She didn't refuse, so she took it and said with a smile, "Okay. There is one more thing. Although wild mushrooms and wild fungus can be collected in the mountains, the quantity is not enough. I grow some at home, so the quantity can be larger. Do you want them?" There was a hint of amusement in the man's eyes, but he didn't say much and said, "Okay. If you can get it, I want it. I want as many as you can, the more the better." When he said that, Xia Huanhuan couldn't help but look up at him. Who was this man? Both times he bought things in 10 or 30 yuan increments. Even if it was to store food for the winter, he bought so much that a small family couldn't eat it all in the winter. Moreover, he could get any ticket. The only possibility that could be thought of was that either this man was a middleman, bought her things, and then went to the city or even a bigger city to sell them and make a profit from the difference. But this would definitely require a letter of introduction that was traversable throughout the country, at least between the county and the city, and that thing was not easy to get. Or did this man have a mine at home, a large population, or was it a collective purchase? The man seemed to see through her suspicion, blinked, and smiled. "Don't worry. I'm not a bad person. I'm just a chef in the factory. I have to cook for 100 people, so I need more supplies." Xia Huanhuan did not believe all these words. Anyway, as long as he did not report her and did not ask her about the source of the supplies, he would be a good customer. Maybe, after they became familiar with each other, she could ask him to help her get a pass so that she could sell the supplies to the city. She smiled and said, "I don't doubt you. By the way, did you get the bicycle ticket I asked about last time? And the coal stove ticket, if you have it, it doesn't matter if the price is a little higher." The man scratched his head and said, "I don't have it this time. Wait until next time, I will get you both tickets. By the way, my name is Yan Haotian, what's your name?" Xia Huanhuan was stunned for a moment, then made up a fake name. "My name is Dongwan." The man glanced at her, smiled, and without saying anything, he packed all the things away in the bamboo basket he brought. What Xia Huanhuan didn't know was that after Yan Haotian left the black market and turned around, he turned into an alley and found a military jeep waiting for him. He got in the car and the person sitting in the front said to the driver, "Drive, back to Kyoto." After Yan Haotian walked away, Xia Huanhuan adjusted her headscarf to cover half of her face and walked outside. She made 27 yuan, which was not much, but not too little. She planned to find a secluded place to get more supplies to sell to others. No matter how much Yan Haotian bought, she couldn't just do his business. Otherwise, if he didn't come one day, wouldn't she be in trouble? Most of the people who came to the black market in the town were villagers from the surrounding areas, and a small number were like Yan Haotian, who might have come from the county. This time, Xia Huanhuan took out 20 chicken eggs and 20 duck eggs and 10 salted duck eggs and sold them separately. After a while, most of them were sold, and she earned about 6 yuan. For this trip, she earned 33 yuan. Seeing that it was getting late, she planned to go home. However, just as she walked to a secluded place, an old woman suddenly grabbed her wrist and asked in a trembling voice, "Excuse me, do you have any medicinal materials to sell? Ginseng and Angelica will do. And is there any cotton? And cotton cloth?" Xia Huanhuan looked ragged and had gray hair and was a little stunned. Ginseng and other medicinal herbs are hard to buy in the herbal medicine shop now, so they must be bought on the black market. Cotton is an economic crop, which is collectively grown by the commune, and ordinary people cannot get it. As for cloth, it is now woven by textile factories. Farmers cannot spin yarn and weave cloth without cotton. Therefore, even if it is sold on the black market, the price is at least twice as expensive as that of the regular state-owned supply and marketing cooperatives. If this old woman has money to come to the black market, it is better to go to the supply and marketing cooperative to buy these. Doesn't she have cotton and cloth coupons? Thinking of this, Xia Huanhuan was about to ask for her cotton and cloth coupons. Anyway, she had plenty of them in her space. It would be fine as long as others thought she had the tickets, and she didn't have to have them. At this time, the old woman suddenly took out a dirty handkerchief from her body and opened it to show Xia Huanhuan. If you have medicinal herbs, cotton, and cloth, I will exchange this with you. Wrapped in the handkerchief was a pair of lush, green jade bracelets. Xia Huanhuan looked at the old woman in astonishment and then quickly pulled her to a secluded place. She understood why the old woman refused to go to the supply and marketing cooperative. In this era, these jade bracelets are all out of date and can only be circulated on the black market. If you take them out in the open and get discovered, you'll be in big trouble. Old woman, is this something passed down in your family? It's very dangerous to take out such a valuable thing rashly on the black market. The old woman sighed and said, Alas, I'm going to die. Why should I be afraid of danger? There's really no other way. My young lady.
No.
I mean, my niece is dying of illness. We need her life saved. Xia Huanhuan felt sorry for the pitiful look on the old woman's face, so she said, Wait here and don't leave. I'll think of a way. As she spoke, she walked to a deserted place, took out a 3-year-old ginseng weighing about 2 taels, 1 tael of angelica, 2 kilograms of cotton, and 5 feet of cloth from the space, then walked back and handed the supplies to the old woman, saying, Old lady, take these. The old woman thought she was dazzled, and rubbed her eyes with her wrinkled hands. When she looked again, she believed that what she saw was real. She couldn't help but burst into tears, her knees softened, and she was about to kneel in front of Xia Huanhuan. Thank you. Thank you. You are really a living bodhisattva. My young lady is saved. Xia Huanhuan quickly helped her up and said, Old lady, such a big gift from you will shorten my life. Get up quickly. The old woman got up while wiping her tears, handed the jade bracelet to Xia Huanhuan, and said, This. Is it enough? If it's not enough, I still have a silver ring. Xia Huanhuan said, Old lady, these things are not worth these 2 jade bracelets. I'll take one. You can hide the other one well. You can sell it for a lot of money later. In that era, in order to survive, many old and good things were sold at a low price. Judging from the quality and age of these 2 jade bracelets, they are probably hundreds of years old. The jade is also the best material. After another 20 years, when the times have changed, one of them may be able to exchange for a courtyard house. She didn't want to take advantage of others and get too much. The old lady said anxiously, How can that be? If you don't take it, I can't go back and explain to my young lady. The things I gave you are only about 20 yuan in total. When you have 10 yuan, you can come to me to redeem it at any time. It doesn't have to be pawned. How about it? After hearing what Xia Huanhuan said, the old woman burst into tears again. She wiped her tears and said, Oh, thank you on behalf of my young lady. You really saved my young lady's life and saved my life. Xia Huanhuan heard that she no longer concealed her address to the person she wanted to save as young lady, and guessed in her heart that this old woman was probably the wet nurse or maid of a lady from a big family in the past. Even in her old age, she still wholeheartedly protected her young lady, which was really precious in this special era. Xia Qianqian thought about it and accepted a jade bracelet from someone else, which was somewhat of an advantage, so she walked away and took out a pound of flour from the space and gave it to her. Old woman, do and be polite. I'll give you this flour as well. It's getting late, you'd better go back quickly. After saying goodbye to the old woman, Xia Huanhuan went to the supply and marketing cooperative and bought soles for cloth boots. She asked about the price of coal stoves and coal and planned to buy them next time she got a ticket. Then, she went to the butcher shop and bought half a caddy of mutton for 60 cents and half a caddy of sheep offal, sheep liver, sheep heart, lungs, sheep blood, etc. for 30 cents. Then she set off to go home. There were dozens or even hundreds of sheep waiting to be slaughtered in the space, and there were still hundreds of caddies of mutton in reserve. She bought half a caddy of mutton just to make a deception so that people would know that she bought this thing, so that when the family ate it, There are also traces to follow, so people won't suspect that the supplies are made out of thin air. Otherwise, if someone says that her things are of unknown origin and that she stole them, she won't be able to explain herself. On the way, she took out another pound of lamb leg meat from the space and put it together with the half-pound of lamb she bought. She also took out a large cabbage, a large white radish, mushrooms, mountain mushrooms, black fungus, some small spinach, a piece of old tofu, and a dozen large tiger prawns and some clams. The temperature has dropped a lot today, and it is estimated to be below 10 degrees. This kind of weather is most suitable for eating mutton hot pot. When she was about to get home, Xia Huanhuan remembered that there was no electricity or induction cooker in this era, and she hadn't bought a coal stove yet. How could she eat hot pot? She had already asked at the supply and marketing cooperative, and a coal stove cost 15 yuan, and the coal had to be bought separately. Therefore, only families in rural areas who are particularly well off would buy it for use, and most of them still burn firewood for the winter. But for her, 15 yuan is not expensive. As for coal, there is enough in the space, so there is no need to worry about running out of fuel. I will buy the tickets after a few days. I will have to bear with the hot pot until I buy the coal stove. I will make mutton soup tonight, which is warm. Xia Huanhuan put the prepared ingredients back into the space, leaving only a large white radish, and went in. It just so happened that 3 little guys came in with 2 other children, carrying small bamboo baskets on their backs. Xia Huanhuan recognized that the other 2 children were the 2 daughters of Zhou Qiuhe's family, the 5-year-old Li Huanhuan and the 3-year-old Li Yingying. Li Yingying is about the same age as Beibei, so they hold hands and swing back and forth, looking very intimate. Seeing Xia Huanhuan, Xiaowu and Beibei had already run over with a happy look on their faces, looking up and shouting, "Mom, we went to collect firewood, and we collected a lot." Li Wen had a weird personality and was too embarrassed to call Xia Huanhuan Mom, but his face was flushed, as he was a little proud and a little embarrassed for having done the work. Li Huanhuan and Li Yingying both bowed politely to Xia Huanhuan and called in a baby voice, "Fourth aunt." Li Huanhuan said, "Fourth aunt, my mother said that all the firewood my sister and I picked up today should be given to fourth aunt. Thank you for the cloth and cotton." Then, he obediently poured the firewood he and his sister had picked up in their backpacks on the kitchen stove. Xia Huanhuan did not refuse and smiled and said, "Then you go back and thank your mother for me." Then she took out a few fruit candies and distributed them to the kids. The kids all ate them with happiness. Li Huanhuan took his sister, Li Yingying, home with a happy face. Xia Huanhuan started to prepare the mutton soup. First, soak the mutton, offal and large bones in water for a while to make blood water. Then put the mutton bones, mutton, and offal into the pot with cold water, boil it, skim off the impurities and take it out. Boil until the mutton soup turns white, then add the mutton and offal, add the large pieces of white radish, and simmer slowly over medium heat. Of course, Xia Wen is the one who is in charge of the fire, and Xiaowu and Beibei come over from time to time to replace their brother, and they are very sensible and don't delay Xia Huanhuan's cooking. While boiling the soup, Xia Huanhuan quickly mixed some white flour, added chopped scallions and a little oil and salt, made it into a pancake, and fried it into oil in another pot. After boiling for about an hour, turn off the heat, take out the mutton and offal, rinse it with cold water, and cut it into thin slices. Xia Huanhuan likes spicy food, so she took out the chili sauce and scooped a full spoonful for herself. The milky white mutton soup was floating with red chili oil, and there was an incredible amount of mutton, mutton liver, mutton heart and lungs, etc., which looked very appetizing. The family of 4 sat at the table, holding the freshly fried white flour pancake in one hand and the big bowl of mutton soup in the other, eating the meat and drinking the soup in big mouthfuls, and their mouths were all greasy. After a bowl of mutton soup, the whole body was warm, and the temperature outside of 7 or 8 degrees did not feel cold at all. Xia Huanhuan boiled a thigh bone with nearly 3 pounds of meat this time, but she couldn't finish it all at once, so she put the remaining mutton soup and mutton back into the space. Then she washed the hands and faces of the 3 kids and let them get into bed early to sleep. She waited until they fell asleep before entering the space, first soaking in the hot spring, and then taking a novel to read with relish. In this era, even in the city, there are many places without electricity, let alone in the countryside. Even candles are not affordable. Every family finds an iron can, makes a fire core, pours some kerosene into it, and lights the flame to the size of a bean grain for lighting. Therefore, at night, there is no other entertainment except sleeping. Radios are more common in the city, but they are also rare in the countryside, not to mention televisions. Xia Huanhuan's space does have electricity, game consoles, televisions, etc. But after all, it is a time travel, so advanced things such as the internet cannot be connected, so you can only play games downloaded locally or download TV series and movies. Fortunately, Xia Huanhuan had stockpiled literary novels, professional books on science, popular books, and film and television materials on various subjects such as Chinese, American, Korean, Japanese, and British dramas, etc. So she would come in at night to read novels and so on, so that her life would not be so boring. After reading the novel for a while, she left the space and went to bed. At this time, in Wangjia Village, another village about 20 miles away from Qingshui Village. During the day, the old woman who had exchanged 2 jasper bracelets with Xia Huanhuan for some things returned home. It was already dark, and there was no light in her thatched house. Taking advantage of the darkness, she carried a bowl of soup and 2 steamed buns and walked towards a cowshed not far from her home. The cows in the cowshed were still eating hay, and the cowshed exuded an unpleasant smell. The old woman walked in, knelt down beside a haystack, and called softly, "Miss."
Miss.
The person who was called woke up a little weakly, but she was a woman in her 40s or 50s. Although her face was pale and haggard, it was not difficult to see that she must have been a great beauty when she was young. Her name is Shen Wanxue. Recently, because of her family background, she was demoted and sent to a rural cowshed to feed and raise cattle. The old woman handed the bowl and 2 white flour buns in her hand to Shen Wanxue and said tearfully, "Miss, this is the white flour I exchanged for your 2 jade bracelets and some ginseng and angelica to make medicine. You should drink it while it's hot." Shen Wanxue shook her head weakly and said, "Auntie Yao, don't call me miss in the future. If someone hears it, you'll be in trouble too. I'm afraid I can't survive this disaster. Give it to your son and grandson." Auntie Yao said immediately, "Then, I will still call you Wanjia, as I used to call you by your nickname in the mansion. Don't say discouraging words. My son and grandson have already benefited from it and have eaten the mixed flour buns. These are all for Wanjia. This ginseng and angelica is a life-saving medicine. You will get better soon after drinking it. By the way, there is also this cotton padded jacket. Although it is not thick, you can put it inside your clothes to keep out the cold." As she said that, she put it on Shen Wanxue, without saying anything. Shen Wanxue couldn't resist, so she took the medicine and drank it, then ate the white steamed buns. Her complexion really improved a lot. She couldn't help asking, "Auntie Yao, have you found any clues about the Li family I asked you to inquire about in the surrounding villages?" Auntie Yao sighed and said, "Alas, I have asked in all the villages within a radius of 30 miles. There are many Li families, but the number of children in the families doesn't match. I'm afraid it's not them. I even asked a family named Li in Qingshui Village, but the number of sons and daughters didn't match. I'm afraid it's not the family where the young master was fostered back then." When the woman heard this, her eyes dimmed for a while, and then she couldn't help but burst into tears. "Alas, if I had known that the village where that family lived would be flooded, and even the village would be gone, I wouldn't have fostered him in the village back then. Poor my newborn child. It's better for the whole family to die than to be separated from each other now." Auntie Yao sighed and said, "Sister Wan, maybe that family is lucky and survived the flood, or even moved away. Don't be too anxious. If the child is still alive, we will definitely be able to find him. I will go to other places to ask tomorrow." Shen Wanxue sighed and said, "Thank you, Yao Ma. Don't work too hard. Alas, even if I find him now, I can't recognize him in the state, otherwise won't it implicate him? As long as I know he is still alive, I will be satisfied." No words were spoken all night. The next morning, Xia Huanhuan woke up refreshed. First, She made a few bowls of mutton soup and baked a few pancakes with the leftover mutton soup and mutton from last night, which was considered breakfast. Just after breakfast, Liwen took his younger brothers and sisters to collect firewood with a small bamboo basket on their backs. Xia Huanhuan didn't plan to stop them. After all, the 3 kids went voluntarily. Moreover, she had meat for 3 meals a day and only let them go out after feeding them well. It's not like Wang Guixiang, who made them work on an empty stomach and didn't give them food if they didn't work enough. Besides, children in every household have to go out to collect firewood and cut grass for pigs. It is better for them to play with their peers and exercise their bodies than to stay at home and gain weight. After they left, Xia Huanhuan was about to go out to find Zhou Qiuhe to ask her to help teach her how to make shoes. At this time, Lin Yuru suddenly came in with the basket.
Warner,
"Are you home?" Xia Huanhuan let Lin Yuru in and said with a smile, "Mom, how come you have time to come here today?" This was the first time Lin Yuru came to the Li family. Thinking of her daughter's poor marriage, not even a wedding banquet was held, and she and Xia Shuangshan did not send her to the Li family. She couldn't help but feel a sour nose. She quickly turned her head, took off the cloth on the basket, and forced a smile. "Your father asked me to bring this to you." Xia Huanhuan looked out and saw that it was actually 2 complete hare skins, which had been dried and preserved and looked very warm. In addition, there was a piece of tender red meat, which looked like wild rabbit meat. "These 2 rabbits were hunted by your father in the mountains yesterday. I brought all the rabbit skins to you. You can make a pair of boots to wear, otherwise your feet will get frostbite in winter. Your father and I kept one of the wild rabbit meat, and I brought the remaining one to you so that you can have some meat." Xia Huanhuan was very moved when she heard it, and couldn't help asking with a sour nose, "Mom, have you and my father had a good life these days? Have Li Cuihua and the others made things difficult for you again?" Lin Yuru grabbed her daughter's hand and smiled. "Don't worry about it. Li Cuihua brought her 2 sons to cry and make a fuss a few times, but your father was determined this time and coldly drove her back, or just pretended not to see her. This winter, other production teams were reinforcing the pig and sheep pens, and your father did a lot of masonry work. He earned almost $1 in a few days. And the white flour and sweet potato flour you brought last time are enough for us to eat for a while. Otherwise, could your father have skipped work yesterday and gone into the mountains to catch rabbits?" Although he didn't say it, he felt sorry for you in his heart. He said that he wanted to get some animal skins for his daughter to make some warm clothes and shoes. "Alas, when you got married, we didn't give you any dowry. We will make it up to you slowly in the future." Xia Huanhuan's eyes reddened. She touched the soft rabbit skin and smiled. "This rabbit skin feels warm and good. Why don't you keep it for yourself? With this division of the family, except for that house, you are almost left with nothing. I still have Li Zhan's allowance here." "Silly girl. Do you have money? Can you buy rabbit skins? Your father is still strong and capable. Let him go to the mountains to catch a few rabbits in a few days, and we will have a share. If you still refuse like this to your mother, I will feel even worse." Seeing this, Xia Huanhuan accepted it and smiled. "Then, Mom, go back and say thank you to my father." Lin Yuru said, "Silly girl. Why are you thanking me? Your father and I have figured it out. It's all nonsense that a daughter who is married off is like water spilled. You will always be our daughter. Why are you being polite to your own parents?" Xia Huanhuan nodded and said, "But I can't accept this rabbit meat. You should take it back, Mom. I have meat for every meal, and it's delicious." Lin Yuru was unwilling to do that and quickly said, "Don't lie to your mother. Who can eat meat for every meal in this situation? Even this wild rabbit is so thin and hungry. You can just stir-fry the rabbit meat with some dried chilies. It will be delicious." Seeing that Lin Yuru didn't believe her, Xia Huanhuan sighed, went to the kitchen, brought out the remaining mutton soup from the space, which was still steaming hot, and gave it to Lin Yuru. Lin Yuru smelled the aroma of the mutton soup and looked at the clearly visible pieces of mutton liver in the milky, white soup. She couldn't help but widen her eyes and swallowed subconsciously. Xia Huanhuan handed it to her and smiled. "Mom, this is the mutton soup I made last night. Mom, you can eat the rest. You came so early. You must have missed breakfast. Lin Yuru still couldn't believe it. She took the bowl in a daze, then looked at Xia Huanhuan. Where did you get the mutton for the soup? Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, Of course I bought it from the butcher shop in town. I've said that I live a more comfortable life than you. I really need the rabbit skin, but you can take the rabbit meat back. Seeing this, Lin Yuru said, Well, okay. That is. Although your son-in-law's allowance is a lot, you have to spend it frugally and don't be extravagant. When it's all spent, you're a woman, your husband is not at home, and you have to take care of his eldest brother's 3 kids. How are you going to live? Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, Mom, don't worry. I have a plan in mind. Before the time travel, Xia Huanhuan's parents died in a car accident when she was 16 years old. She hadn't felt cared for and loved by her mother for a long time. Although Lin Yuru was not very good before, she really cares about her now, which made her eyes redder. Lin Yuru sighed again. Alas. Speaking of which, where are the 3 little guys? They went to collect firewood with the children of the 3rd room. Lin Yuru nodded, hesitated for a moment, and still sighed and said, Adopting these 3 little guys is good. The son-in-law is willing to give you most of his allowance, which shows that he is also responsible. It's just that why is your life so miserable? Why did you get injured in that place? You have to be a widow, Wanner, and you can't give birth to your own children in this life. As he said, he couldn't help but pull up the corner of his clothes to wipe his tears. He whispered a reminder. But Wanner, you have to be careful and plan more for yourself. After all, the biological mother of the 3 little guys just remarried. What if she comes back to ask for her own children in the future? Won't you get nothing? Xia Huanhuan had actually thought about this. If the biological mother of the 3 little guys really came back to ask for the children, then it would all depend on their own choices. If they wanted to stay, she would continue to raise them, and if they wanted to go with their biological mother, she would not stop them. Everyone has the right to choose their own life, even children, and it cannot be forced. Anyway, she adopted them because she felt too pitiful that they were bullied and abused, and she did not intend to let them take care of her in her old age. However, in the eyes of outsiders, her adoption this time was probably Sima Zhao's intention, and passers-by knew about it. Xia Huanhuan did not explain, but just answered vaguely, I know. The mutton soup is getting cold, you should drink it quickly. At this time, Wang Guixiang suddenly appeared at the door, poked her head and said, 4th brother sister-in-law, did you make mutton soup? I said I smelled the smell of meat wafting out of your room early in the morning. I was almost dying of greed. Anything else? I'm not drinking it myself. I plan to bring a bowl to our mother. As a daughter-in-law, you can give the drink to your own mother, and you should also give the drink to your mother-in-law. This is called filial piety, don't you think? When Xia Huanhuan heard Wang Guixiang's words, she knew that it was Lu Lan who instigated her to make her uncomfortable. She smiled and said, 2nd sister-in-law, what you said is true. I have already separated from my mother-in-law under the witness of the commune secretary. I make mutton soup or beef soup, and it is up to me to give it to whomever I want. It can't be said to be filial or not. Besides, my husband gives 10 yuan to my mother-in-law every month as a filial piety. That 10 yuan should be used to eat mutton and drink mutton soup. Wouldn't it be full? If you ask your mother-in-law for money and go to the town to buy it and make it for her, wouldn't it show that you are more filial? Wang Guixiang was stunned when she heard it. It seems to be true. Li Zhan's 10 yuan can buy more than 8 kilograms of mutton. She wants 2 or 3 yuan and buys 1 or 2 kilograms. Won't the whole family be full? She can also use this to gain the reputation of a filial daughter-in-law. Wang Guixiang thought, and looked at Lu Lan, who was standing not far behind with expectation. Lu Lan naturally heard everything she said, and she was so angry that she almost died. Lu Lan glared at Wang Guixiang fiercely, walked in and personally went into battle, with her hands on her hips and scolded, Daughter-in-law Zhan, you made mutton soup, but instead of honoring your parents-in-law, you called your mother over early in the morning to give it to her. My son's allowance was secretly given to your mother's family by you, a traitor. Behind her, Li Qiaoqiao also looked at Xia Huanhuan with a gloomy face and echoed, "That's right. Mom, who knows? She might have secretly given it to some lover in the village. My fourth brother is in such a bad condition. Isn't she hungry?"
"Papa."
With a slap, Li Qiaoqiao was slapped twice on the face before she could finish her words. Everyone present was stunned. Li Qiaoqiao's cheeks were swollen with 5 finger marks, and her nose was bleeding. She covered her face and stared at Xia Huanhuan with tears in her eyes. Xia Huanhuan glanced at Li Qiaoqiao coldly. "You dare to come into my house and spread rumors about me to ruin my reputation. You are so brave.
"What?
Do you think I dare not hit you with your mother following you? Or do you think you are the chosen one and everyone will give in to you? If I hear you make up a story about me again next time, don't blame me for exposing all your ugly deeds." When Li Qiaoqiao heard Xia Huanhuan's last words, her face turned pale and her body couldn't help but tremble slightly. The figure last time was indeed Xia Huanhuan. She saw her and Jie Yuan's brother entering the grove.
"No."
She must find a way to stop Xia Huanhuan from telling this. When Wang Guixiang heard what scandal Xia Huanhuan said, her gossipy heart immediately burned, and she asked excitedly, "Scandal? What scandal did my sister-in-law have?" Lu Lan glared at Wang Guixiang fiercely. "Shut up. Why are you everywhere? Zhana's daughter-in-law, don't change the subject. Do you admit that you took my son Zhana's allowance to your mother? I will find the commune secretary immediately and let him make the decision to get all of Zhana's allowance back. I can't let you, a traitor, get away with it." Lin Yu saw that Xia Huanhuan's mother-in-law, sister-in-law, and sisters-in-law all came to question her so fiercely and subconsciously wanted to give the mutton soup in her hand to Lu Lan, mother-in-law. But Xia Huanhuan grabbed her and scolded in a low voice, "Mom, drink yours, don't worry about it. If you dare to give her this mutton soup, I will no longer recognize you as my mother." Xia Huanhuan looked at Lu Lan with a sneer. "It seems that you still don't want to give up my man's allowance? You can go and find it. My mother brought me rabbit hair and rabbit meat early in the morning, so what's wrong with me giving her mutton soup? Mother-in-law, you even prepared a new quilt for me on my wedding night, and I can bring you a bowl of mutton soup today. People are all made of flesh and blood, and there must be give and take in life. Just thinking about taking advantage without giving anything and not giving a penny, how can there be such a good thing in the world? Also, don't think I don't know that it was you, mother-in-law, who told Song Xiuyue that I went into the mountains when she blocked me at the entrance of the village. They are determined to send me to jail, and I'm still serving you mutton soup? Why don't you go to heaven?" Wang Guixiang looked at Lu Lan again and asked in shock, "Mom, was it really you who did the bad thing last time when Song Xiuyue wrongly accused fourth brother's wife?" Lu Lan was exposed, and her face showed a wonderful expression. She hit Wang Guixiang with her crutch and screamed, "What bad thing did I do? Does she have evidence? You just followed her and yelled, 'Get out of here. If I hear you supporting her again, I will tell your man and let him beat you to death.'" Wang Guixiang was hit so hard that her body twitched in pain and she shrank back. But for the first time, she felt that she, as a mother-in-law, was terribly cold and cold. Didn't her fourth brother's wife just get a separate family and get a large share of her husband's allowance? Although she was envious and jealous, she also felt that it was natural. Anyway, even if all the money was given to Lu Lan, she would not get any benefit. On the contrary, if her husband got rich one day, she could follow the example of her fourth brother's wife and get the biggest share. But why was her mother-in-law so cruel and determined to send her fourth brother's wife to jail? She heard from the villagers gossiping that if the frame-up was successful, her fourth brother's wife would be locked up for 7 or 8 years. Isn't this person ruined? What if she does something to offend her in the future? Won't she send her to jail too? Lu Lan did not notice the change in Wang Guixiang's expression. She was upset that she might not be able to get back the 30 yuan allowance this time. It was all Song Xiuyue's fault. She couldn't even frame someone and got herself into trouble. She was even considering letting Zhana marry her after driving Xia Huanhuan away. Zhana's wife. What are you talking about? I decided to marry you to Zhana. How could I do something bad in secret and send you to jail? Forget it, I won't drink this mutton soup. If you didn't give the allowance to your mother, then you didn't give it. But I still have to remind you that you are a member of the Li family now. Don't do anything out of line. Otherwise, Zhana will divorce you, and I can't protect you. Lulan was afraid that Xia Huanhuan would really tell others about her instigating Song Shuyue, and the matter of Qiao Qiao could not be exposed before she married Su Jiqing, so she had to return empty-handed. Xia Huanhuan sneered. Protect me? Mother-in-law, I'll be thankful if you don't go to great lengths to make me and Li Zhan divorce. Lulan didn't respond and pulled Li Qiao Qiao to her room. Li Qiao Qiao came back to her senses from being stunned and cried and struggled to hit Xia Huanhuan. Xia Huanhuan, you shameless witch. You dare to hit me. I'll tear your mouth apart. Xia Huanhuan was not vague at all and slapped her again, with a sneer on the corner of her lips. I warned you, but you didn't listen, and you dare to scold me in my room? I would be sorry if I didn't hit you. Dare to scold me again, try it? Li Qiao Qiao's face was swollen, and she cried loudly. She didn't dare to scold anymore, and was pulled away by Lulan. Back in the room, Li Qiao Qiao hated more and more, and cried very aggrievedly, Mom. You. She slapped me 3 times. Lulan was furious. You still said. Who told you not to be careful when you were with Su Jiqing? And didn't I remind you not to let him succeed so early? No man is good. After getting something, he will never cherish it and will covet something else. Now that little witch Xia Huanhuan holds our lifeline. If you fight back today and make a big fuss, she will spill all the beans. Do you still want to marry Su Jiqing and go to the city to work as a worker and eat commercial grain? You have no brains at all. Li Qiao Qiao felt a little uneasy about what her mother said, Mom. Brother Jie Yuan is not that kind of person. He has promised to marry me, but not now. He is to wait until he returns to the city. If he marries me now, I will also have a rural household registration and will never be able to return to the city. So, Mom, what do you think? About Xia Huanhuan? We can't let her hold our hands forever, can we? Lulan glanced at her daughter grimly and asked, Oh, Xia Huanhuan is not stupid. We can only take it slowly. By the way, you spread the words I asked you to spread secretly 2 days ago, right? Li Qiao Qiao nodded and said, You spread them all. I know Xia Lanlan, and I asked her a few questions indirectly, and she told me that Xia Huanhuan eloped with a wild man the night before my 4th brother, and I got married. I accidentally revealed it to Aunt Wu, the gossipy woman in the village.
Lulan nodded. Well,
that's good. But it's not enough to just do it before marriage. It's better to do it after marriage. Xia Huanhuan saw that Lulan had run away, so she ignored her and sent Lulan away. Then she carried her backpack and went into the mountains again. The wild rabbit hair that Lin Yuru brought made her feel moved, and she planned to get more animal hair and make a few pairs of boots for the winter. The amount of hair from the 2 rabbits was probably enough to make a pair for the 3 cubs, but she didn't have enough. She had wild rabbits in her space, but she couldn't take them out of thin air, so she needed to go into the mountains for a walk. Another reason was that she liked to go into the mountains to pick herbs and mushrooms. She used to live in big cities, and there were very few opportunities to get close to nature. When she reached the head of the village, a group of village women and men who were talking in a buzz saw her from a distance, and they immediately shut up and looked at her with strange eyes. The women were contemptuous, and the men were nakedly malicious. Xia Huanhuan frowned slightly, thinking that things might not be simple. Oh, isn't this the daughter-in-law of the Li family? Going into the mountains again? A middle-aged woman laughed. Xia Huanhuan recognized that it was Aunt Wu, the most gossipy woman in the village. Could there be some man waiting in the mountains? Another new bride named Zhang Ernie, who had just married and not long ago, sneered. Zhang Ernie was quite pretty and had been very complacent since she was a child. But after she got married, she was compared to dirt by Xia Huanhuan. Her husband Wang Ergo always envied the Li family for marrying Xia Huanhuan, which was simply unfair. Therefore, she was jealous of Xia Huanhuan's beauty to death. Now that she had the chance, why didn't she act weird to death? The people standing at the head of the village laughed, and they all looked at Xia Huanhuan with great interest, wanting to see her make a fool of herself. Originally, the news that Li Zhan was injured and unable to move had spread out somehow. As soon as Xia Huanhuan got married, she was talked about in the village. Now it was reported that she eloped with another man the night before her wedding. Wouldn't that cause an uproar? If Xia Huanhuan didn't see that something was wrong at this time, wouldn't she have lived in vain? She looked at Zhang Ernie, suddenly smiled charmingly, and said, "Then who knows? Maybe it's your man?" When Zhang Ernie heard this, her face suddenly turned blue and white. She jumped up and cursed Xia Huanhuan. "What did you say?"
Pa.
With a sound, Zhang Ernie was slapped. Xia Huanhuan frowned slightly. She had slapped 3 or 4 people in the morning and her hands were sore. Zhang Ernie and the people in the village were shocked. This new daughter-in-law looked delicate and fragile, but she was so quick, accurate, and ruthless, leaving no face or room for maneuver. Zhang Ernie covered her face and was shocked for a long time before she stammered angrily, "Xia Huanhuan. You dare to hit me." Xia Huanhuan had a good temper and even had a smile on her face, but her smile was a little cold, like frost flowers in winter, extremely cold and beautiful. "You dare to scold me in public. Why shouldn't I dare to hit you? Besides, when I hit you, I am actually saving you.
You should thank me."
Zhang Ernie was stunned. She got slapped in the face, and she should thank Xia Huanhuan for hitting her? How could this be logical?
Xia Huanhuan, you.
What do you mean? Zhang Ernie asked with some stuttering. Somehow, she felt a little uneasy. Think about how a few days ago, this Xia Huanhuan casually brought down Secretary Wang and Song Xiuyu, who were arrogant and domineering in the village, and sent Li Jiqing to jail. Although it was indeed Secretary Wang, Song Xiuyu, and Li Jiqing who brought trouble upon themselves, there was also an evil nature in Xia Huanhuan. Let's not talk about anything else, just talk about her mother-in-law Lulan. Before Xia Huanhuan got married, who in the Li family didn't listen to Lulan? Li Zhan had so many subsidies in his hands, and he was as arrogant as he could be in the village.
But now?
Xia Huanhuan successfully separated the family and lived alone the day after she got married, and made Li Zhan give her most of the subsidies. Instead, Lulan was suppressed by the new daughter-in-law. Don't you think this is evil? The more Zhang Ernie thought about it, the more scared she became.
She
wouldn't be affected by something, right? Xia Huanhuan looked at her with a sneer and said, "Don't understand? It's no wonder you're so stupid that you don't even know you've gotten into trouble. I'll just remind you. Do you know what my man Li Zhan does?" Zhang Ernie was stunned. Who doesn't know this? Li Zhan is a soldier. He gets so much allowance every month. Who in the village wouldn't be envious and jealous?
No.
Isn't he just a soldier in the army?
What's so great about that?
Xia Huanhuan's cold eyes swept over everyone present, and then she said loudly, "You still know this. Since my man is a soldier, my identity is a military dependent. That is deliberately ruining my reputation and provoking the relationship between me and my man. Do you know what this is called? To put it mildly, it's a gossipy woman spreading rumors. To put it more seriously, it's a spy lurking among the masses, waiting for an opportunity to sabotage and sneak attack the rear of the soldiers. Zhang Ernie, which one do you think you are? Let's go. Let's go to the commune and let Secretary Zhao decide." The more Zhang Ernie listened, the paler her face became. By the end, her legs and feet went limp. She sat down on the ground with her eyes wide open. After a long while, she was so scared that she burst into tears. In that special era, if you were accused of being an enemy, you would be executed in serious cases.
I
was just making it up. These were all said by Aunt Wu, and she said it was reliable information. It's none of my business. I would rather die than go to the commune. The other people who were gossiping and waiting to see Xia Huanhuan make a fool of herself were also so scared that their legs and feet went limp, and they all tried to distance themselves from the matter. Li's wife, I didn't say anything. I just heard them talking nonsense, and I was thinking that I had to reprimand them sternly. And you came over. Li's wife, God is my witness, I don't believe these nonsense either.
It's
It's all Aunt Wu. I don't know where she heard it from, but she said it as if it were true.
we.
We were also deceived. When the others heard this, they all immediately blamed Aunt Wu. That's right. It was Aunt Wu who started it all. Aunt Wu, you should go to the commune and confess to Secretary Zhao so that he would be lenient. Was it some enemy who instigated you to do so? Don't implicate us. When Aunt Wu heard that everyone was pointing their fingers at her, she was so scared that her face turned pale. She raised her hand and slapped herself hard several times, swearing in a crying voice, "Oh my God, I am so wronged. If I hadn't heard it from the daughter of the Li family, would I have come out and said such nonsense? Why are you blaming me now? That evil woman. Next time I see her, I will tear her mouth apart and spit on her to death." As she spoke, Aunt Wu looked at Xia Huanhuan with a flattering smile, slapped her own broken mouth hard, and begged, "Li's wife, you see. Annie really didn't mean it this time. I was fooled by your aunt. That little witch. I won't dare to do it again. Wife of the Li family, just forgive Annie this time, and don't make a fuss to the secretary." Seeing that her goal had been achieved, Xia Huanhuan stopped pressing her, but her face was still as cold as ice as she said, "Since Annie Wu said so, I won't pursue today's matter seriously. Let's end it here. However, I have to say this in advance. If I hear a word that slanders my innocence again in the future, I, Xia Huanhuan, swear I will not be a human being if I don't get to the bottom of it and make you regret being born by your mother." After saying that, without giving these people a good look, he walked through them with a cold face and headed towards the mountain. He sneered as he walked. The daughter of the Li family is her sister-in-law Li Qiaoqiao, right? But Li Qiaoqiao is also quite stupid. I'm afraid her mother Lulan is also involved. However, the fact that she eloped with a man the night before her wedding should only be known to the Xia family, and the Xia family should not take the initiative to spread it out. After all, although the Xia family doesn't like the original owner, there are still two granddaughters, Xia Fangfang and Xia Lanlan, who are not married yet. Her reputation is worthless, but if it is ruined, then Xia Fangfang and Xia Lanlan will also lose value and become money-losing goods. Li Cuihua is not stupid. She must have strictly forbidden the Xia family to go out and talk nonsense. Did Su Jiyuan tell Li Qiaoqiao himself? Xia Huanhuan thought about it for a while. Because she didn't expect the stupidity of someone in the Xia family, she didn't guess that it was Xia Lanlan who said it. She shook her head and put the matter aside. Anyway, there would always be a chance to find out in the future, so there was no rush. The most urgent thing now is to think about how to shut up the villagers and make these rumors that have spread disappear without a trace. In this era, especially in most rural areas, a woman's reputation is still more important than her life. Once a rumor about this matter spreads, it can't be stopped by just a few words of scaring. Otherwise, there wouldn't be such sayings as "beware of others' mouths," rather than rivers and people's words are scary being passed down. The villagers were afraid of her because of what she said just now. They might not dare to say it in front of her, but they might hate her more behind her back and make up more vicious and unbearable rumors. Moreover, there are so many bachelors in the village, scoundrels who eat and wait for death, and even many men who have wives. Which one doesn't have some evil thoughts in their hearts? There are many gossips in front of a widow. Although she has a man, her reputation for Li Zhan's affair is well known. To put it bluntly, she is really a living widow. Those men might think it's more exciting than a widow. They may have the desire to steal for a day or two, but what about a month or two? There will always be flies that are not afraid of death surrounding them. By then, even if those men can't succeed, she will be in trouble. Therefore, this matter must be dealt with immediately. Xia Huanhuan thought for a moment, and then she had a plan in her mind. She continued to walk towards the mountain with a backpack on her back. This time, Xia Huanhuan went straight into the mountains. If there were wild mushrooms and fungus at hand, she would pick them up, but she didn't look for them deliberately. Instead, she focused on finding traces of large animals, such as wild boars. Although there were wild ducks, pheasants, and rabbits in her space, Wild boars were rare in the world before she crossed over, and she didn't have any in her space. Xia Huanhuan was lucky. After a while, she found pig hoof prints similar to those of wild boars. There were 2 large ones, followed by a series of small ones. They should be a family of wild boars. She was happy and followed the pig hoof prints forward on tiptoe. She walked further and further away. After a while, after bypassing a lot of slopes, she actually walked to an open area with abundant wild mushrooms and berries. Some of the wild mushrooms and berries still had signs of being gnawed. Xia Huanhuan looked around and guessed that this should be the secret back garden found by the wild boar family. Wild boars, like domestic pigs, are omnivorous animals. In winter, everything withers, and wild boars are also short of food. They eat wild mushrooms, berries, grass roots, and everything else, just like humans. If the wild mushrooms are not eaten up, a large patch will emerge early the next morning. Just looking at these wild mushrooms that have not been eaten up, the wild boars will definitely come again. The soil in the deep mountains is very soft because it is not often stepped on by people. In a short while, she dug a pit more than 1 meter deep. Xia Huanhuan climbed out of the pit, wiped the sweat from her forehead, and rested for a while. Just when she was about to get some small branches from the space to put on the pit and then cover it with leaves and soil to make a trap, suddenly, a low roar came from behind her. Xia Huanhuan's back suddenly tensed up as if she had been electrocuted, and her hair stood up because of instinctive fear. She looked back mechanically, and there were 2 wild boars standing behind her, more than 1 meter long, with long curved fangs and arrow-like bristles on their backs. They were furious. Behind them, there were more than 10 small wild boars. Xia Huanhuan guessed correctly. This was really a family of wild boars, and they really came here to look for food again. But they came too early. She hadn't set the trap yet. Xia Huanhuan's heart was in her throat, and she retreated carefully. In this winter with insufficient food and clothing, wild boars can rush over and use their fangs to disembowel you, no matter if you are a human or other small animal, and eat you until there is nothing left. The 2 adult wild boars stared at Xia Huanhuan with murderous intent, as if they were measuring the lethality of the humans in front of them and whether they would have a chance of winning if they launched an attack. Xia Huanhuan swallowed her saliva, made up her mind, and made a dangerous and bold decision. She stepped back step by step, and suddenly she cried out "ah," pretending to lose her footing, and fell into the pit she had dug. Upon seeing this, 2 adult wild boars immediately roared and rushed over with all their might. Although they are wild beasts, they live in the mountains so close to humans, and they have seen many such big pit traps. Even the traps set by experienced hunters, which are covered with mud and dead leaves and are extremely well camouflaged, they have seen through many of them. They would not fall into a trap like Xia Huanhuan, who was dug by an amateur, no matter how stupid they are. But now, this stupid human actually fell into the pit she dug herself. Why don't they rush over and tear her apart and eat her? With such a big prey, their family can spend this winter safely again. Unfortunately, when they opened their bloody mouths and their fangs were about to pierce Xia Huanhuan's chest, Xia Huanhuan at the bottom of the pit suddenly disappeared out of thin air, leaving only an empty pit. 2 adult wild boars screamed like they were being slaughtered and fell heavily into the pit more than 1 meter deep. The tusk of one of them was broken and pierced directly into its throat, bleeding immediately and dying. The stomach of another wild boar was also pierced by its companion, and it lay at the bottom of the pit groaning and unable to get up. Xia Huanhuan waited for a long time before she dared to come out of the space, then stepped on the bodies of the 2 wild boars and climbed back to the ground. A dozen little wild boars were turning around the big pit anxiously and sadly, obviously feeling sad for their parents. Xia Huanhuan squatted on the ground and reflected for a long time on why she was so kind to those snow wolves last time, but why she was so cruel to the wild boar family today. Then she spit on her own hypocrisy, cruelty and cold-bloodedness in her heart, and stood up to fight. First, she put one of the big wild boars caught in the trap into the space, and then quickly caught more than 10 small wild boars and put 8 of them directly into the space. The remaining 2 were tied with straw ropes and thrown into the backpack. The strong prey on the weak, and the cruelty of the food chain should be blamed. Then, she broke some branches and threw all the dead leaves into the pit to disguise the scene. Just as she was about to leave, she saw the snow wolf she had saved last time with 4 wolf cubs. They appeared at some point and were standing in the bushes, looking at her. Several wolf cubs obviously recognized her as the human who gave them delicious food and ran over like they were having fun, raising their furry heads and calling out to her. The snow wolf was probably bribed by her big fat pig last time, so it did not stop. Xia Huanhuan squatted down and gently touched the heads of the wolf cubs. Then, after thinking for a while, she released a big fat pig from the space and said to the snow wolf, "This is for you. Please help me watch this wild boar and don't let other prey eat it." The wild boar left in the trap was injured and bleeding. I'm afraid it will attract other carnivorous animals in a short time. For example, the snow wolf should be attracted by the smell of blood. She stole other people's food, so she should compensate with a big fat pig. After saying that, Xia Huanhuan didn't care whether the snow wolf could hear or understand her words, so she left the mountains with a bamboo basket on her back and walked towards the village. When she arrived at the village, she met villagers on the way who heard the screams of the little wild boar coming from her bamboo basket, and they all asked with envy or jealousy, "Wow, the daughter-in-law of the Li family is so capable. Did you catch a wild boar in the mountains? How big is it? Can I take a look?" The daughter-in-law of the Li family, you caught a wild boar. You can't keep it all to yourself. You have to hand it over to the village to share it equally with the villagers. Xia Huanhuan simply greeted her and continued to walk forward without answering. Those people behind her said sarcastic words resentfully. "Humph! What are you so proud of? A woman can catch a wild boar? I'm afraid she secretly asked some wild man to help catch it." After hearing these words, Xia Huanhuan looked back at the villagers who were talking dirty, with a sneer on her lips, and didn't argue with them much. However, because of the wild boar in her basket, many villagers were unwilling to give up and followed her, unwilling to let go. Who told the new daughter-in-law of the Li family to be stupid? When others caught a wild rabbit or a pheasant in the mountains, they would hide it and not dare to let anyone know. But the new daughter-in-law of the Li family just carried the little wild boar that was screaming so loudly on her back and walked around the city. They felt sorry for themselves if they didn't get a share. They all planned to secretly go to the commune to expose Xia Huanhuan so that the commune would confiscate the little wild boar and divide it equally among everyone. Even if they could only get a small piece, it was still meat. However, what surprised them was that Xia Huanhuan did not go home, but walked towards the commune instead. Soon they arrived at the gate of the commune brigade. Xia Huanhuan poked her head out and asked, "Is Secretary Zhao here?" Secretary Zhao and several other cadres of the village brigade, including the village head, the newly appointed village brigade secretary, the women's director of the commune, etc., all came out. Secretary Zhao saw that it was Xia Huanhuan and asked curiously, "Are you the 4th daughter-in-law of the Li family? Are you in any trouble?" Secretary Zhao had a good impression of the new daughter-in-law of the Li family. She was pretty and literate, and she adopted the 3 children of the eldest Li family the day after she got married. She was a good person. What's more, her husband was in the army and was injured and made such a great sacrifice for the country. As the secretary of the commune, he must implement the policy of supporting the army and honoring the families of soldiers. At this time, a woman suddenly rushed out from the villagers who followed, staring at Xia Huanhuan with a pale face. "Li, daughter-in-law of the Li family, didn't you say that you would not pursue what I said? Why did you come to the commune to complain? Why don't you keep your word, daughter-in-law?" The person who spoke was none other than Aunt Wu, who believed Li Qiaoqiao's words and spread rumors. When she heard from the villagers that Xia Huanhuan had gone to the commune, her heart skipped a beat, and she ran over in a hurry. Seeing Xia Huanhuan looking for Secretary Zhao, she thought she was going to file a complaint against her. Secretary Zhao looked at Xia Huanhuan, then at Aunt Wu, frowned and asked, "Wu Xiuhong, what do you mean? Are you unable to control your mouth again? gossiping and making up stories about other people's new daughter-in-law? Li's daughter-in-law, don't be afraid. If you are wronged, just speak out boldly. Our women's director is here and will give you justice.
I.
Oh, I am so wronged, oh. Aunt Wu's legs softened when she heard this, and she fell to the ground with a plop, wiping tears in fear and regret. If Xia Huanhuan really filed a complaint against her, saying that she was an enemy spy who was destroying the rear area, then she, her husband and children, and the whole family of 6 or 7 would probably be arrested and imprisoned. Xia Huanhuan glanced at Aunt Wu, then shook her head and said with a smile, Secretary Zhao, you misunderstood. I came here. I went into the mountains today and was lucky enough to catch a few wild boars. I thought that everything in the mountains belonged to the public and I couldn't keep it all to myself, so I brought it to the commune. As she said this, she took off the backpack and opened the lid. Sure enough, the 2 little wild boars that had been screaming at the top of their lungs were now lying in the backpack with no hope of living. Everyone present was stunned. This development, they really didn't expect it. This new daughter-in-law of the Li family must be a stupid woman with no brains, right? She actually took the initiative to hand over the wild boar she caught? Aunt Wu was crying and wailing in the last second, and in the next second, she had tears on her face and looked at Xia Huanhuan in amazement. Then, she climbed up and rushed to the backpack, looked at the little wild boars, then looked at Xia Huanhuan and said blankly, Li's daughter-in-law. Xia Huanhuan glanced at her, smiled and said, Aunt Wu, did you misunderstand something? My coming to the commune has nothing to do with you.
Oh.
Auntie Wu was stunned, and then her nose suddenly felt sore, and she pulled up the corner of her clothes to wipe her tears. She was so narrow-minded that she actually suspected that the new daughter-in-law was not keeping her word. She was really scared of herself, and she almost exposed herself in front of the secretary. It seems that the new daughter-in-law of the Li family is a good person and will not trip people up behind their backs. Secretary Zhao was stunned, and then he said excitedly, Good. The 4th boy of the Li family really married a good wife. Wife of the Li family, your spirit of sharing and not keeping anything is worthy of learning for all of us. I will report it to the higher-ups immediately, and I must praise you well. Xia Huanhuan shook her head immediately after hearing this and said, Secretary Zhao, if you want to report it for publicity, then I won't hand over this little wild boar cub.
I
just want to live my life quietly and wait for my man to come home. I don't want to be famous. People are afraid of fame just like pigs are afraid of getting fat. If she carries a false reputation, people will be watching her wherever she goes in the future, which will be much more inconvenient. Moreover, what people like most is moral kidnapping. If you are selfless once, people will expect you to be selfless forever, the kind of selfless sacrifice for others. If she hadn't wanted to stop the rumors this time, she would never have caught the wild boar and handed it over. Secretary Zhao heard this and said that is fine. If you don't want to, the daughter-in-law of the Li family, I won't mention this matter. Xia Huanhuan said, Then I will hand over these 2 little wild boars to Secretary Zhao. Do you want to kill them and share the meat with everyone, or keep them in a pen and kill them when they grow up and share the meat? I won't care. Secretary Zhao said, We will discuss this matter when the time comes and listen to everyone's opinions first. Xia Huanhuan nodded and said, Secretary Zhao, there is one more thing. Can you gather a few strong male laborers now, preferably experienced hunters, who can hunt? Secretary Zhao was stunned. What for? Xia Huanhuan said, Didn't I say that I am lucky? I saw wild boars' footprints in the mountains, so I dug a trap. I didn't expect that a big wild boar would fall into the trap. Such a big wild boar must weigh more than 100 pounds. I can't carry it, so I had to bring these 2 little wild boars back first. Secretary Zhao. Villagers present. A wild boar weighing about 100 pounds. There are about 30 households in Qingshui village. If the meat is divided equally in the village, each family can get more than 3 pounds of meat. For the rural areas in the 1970s, except for wealthy families like the Li family, where soldiers were sent home to receive allowances, Most families could not afford to even add oil for cooking. Many families simply cooked without adding oil, or cooked with salt water, not to mention buying meat. I'm afraid there won't be any meat for the whole year. If they can really get 3 pounds of meat, they can make bacon in the winter and eat it for the whole year next year. After a moment of shock, everyone was so excited that their hearts were pounding. Secretary Zhao was so excited that his scalp was numb. He widened his eyes and confirmed, "The fourth daughter-in-law of the Li family are you? Are you sure? Did you really catch a wild boar?" Xia Huanhuan nodded and said, "I was almost stabbed by the wild boar's fangs. Fortunately, I climbed up a tree and escaped. It is better to believe it than not." Secretary Zhao immediately summoned several strong male laborers and asked Xia Huanhuan to lead them into the mountains to carry the wild boar. When Aunt Wu heard this, she immediately jumped out and said, "Secretary, let my man go too. He is very experienced in hunting. He can definitely help." Although the meat is divided equally among each household, those who have contributed to carrying the wild boar into the mountains will definitely get more. Moreover, this wild boar was caught by Xia Huanhuan in a trap after all, and Aunt Wu had offended Xia Huanhuan. If she doesn't fight for it now, what if Xia Huanhuan doesn't give her any meat? Secretary Zhao rolled his eyes at her. "Come on. Your man must be over 50 years old, right? He might sprain his waist if he carries 5 kilograms of food. And you still want him to go into the mountains to carry a wild boar? Don't let him not bring back the wild boar, and ask everyone to carry him back." All the villagers burst into laughter. Aunt Wu's husband, Uncle Wu, blushed and came up to pull Aunt Wu. "You woman, what do you know? I told you not to make a fool of yourself, but you didn't listen. Go home quickly." Xia Huanhuan said, "Secretary Zhao, I heard that there seem to be wolves in the mountains, and Uncle Wu has rich hunting experience. Wouldn't it be safer with him?" Secretary Zhao hesitated for a moment, felt that it made sense, and said, "Okay then." When Aunt Wu heard that Xia Huanhuan actually put aside their past grudges, spoke for her, and asked her husband to go with her, she was stunned at first, and then tears kept flowing. This new daughter-in-law of the Li family is such a good person. How could someone with such good character steal a man and elope with him? The people who would go into the mountains were decided, and there was no delay. Xia Huanhuan was asked to lead the way. In less than half an hour, they really carried a huge wild boar back to the village. The whole village knew the news at this moment, and they all gathered at the gate of the commune, looking at the big wild boar on the big table excitedly. Secretary Zhao said in a loud voice, "The fourth daughter-in-law of the Li family, you set a trap to catch this wild boar. Although our policy stipulates that it should be divided equally, your share must be a little more, so I will give you 10 kilograms, and the rest will be divided among the 30 households in the village."
Wait.
At this time, Lulan suddenly came out and said, "Secretary Zhao, you see, Huanhuan is the daughter-in-law of our Li family, and giving her 10 kilograms more is not too little. How about the other families in our Li family get more? We don't want much. You can give my second son 8 caddies and my third son 4 caddies. That's fine. Otherwise, who will take the initiative to hand in the game they hunted in the future? Don't you agree?" After Lu Lan finished speaking, she glanced at Xia Huanhuan coldly. She was almost furious. The wild boar she caught was too heavy to bring back, so wouldn't she go home and ask Li Chong and Li Jie to secretly go into the mountains to carry it back? She actually handed it over to the commune for the whole village to share equally. How could she be so stupid? If their Li family secretly brought it back, the 3 rooms would share it equally, and she, the mother-in-law, would take 1 more share. Then she could get 40 or 50 kilograms. Now that the whole village is divided equally, she can get more than 3 kilograms. She was anxious, so she came out to earn more for her family. Otherwise, Xia Huanhuan would take 10 kilograms by herself, and she would definitely not give a penny to her mother-in-law. As soon as Lulan said this, Secretary Zhao was embarrassed and hadn't spoken yet, but the other villagers were angry. "Lulan, are you okay? Your fourth daughter-in-law has already separated from you, so it's only natural that she gets 10 kilograms more. Was this wild boar caught by your second son and third son? Why should you two get more?" Just because you all have the last name Li? In that case, I will also change my last name to Li from today. Secretary, please give me a few more pounds. That's right. You are very good at calculating. I have no objection to the new daughter-in-law getting more. But I don't agree to the other branches of the Li family getting more. She is spoiled. Her daughter-in-law selflessly handed over the boar for equal distribution, but she came out to mess things up. I didn't expect this old woman to be so sinister and selfish. Xia Huanhuan didn't expect that before she made a move, Lulan would come out to destroy herself? Really? You don't even give her a chance if you want to let her go. Xia Huanhuan waited until public opinion fermented enough before shaking her head and said to Secretary Zhao, Secretary Zhao, although I caught this wild boar, I have my husband's allowance and I am not short of food. So I don't ask for more, just divide it equally with everyone else. The big brothers who just went into the mountain to carry the wild boar and Uncle Wu have contributed. I think they can get more. However, there is one thing that I just can't help but say. I don't know what happened recently in the village, but many people made up some dirty rumors about me, and I don't know who spread them. Secretary Zhao, you said that I am a new wife who has only been married for a few days and my husband is not at home. If these rumors spread for a long time, they will force me to death, right? Let alone, when I just came back with the little wild boar, some people said that some wild man helped me catch the wild boar. Secretary Zhao, I remember these people. If the wild boar meat is divided equally among them, I will feel so depressed. As he said, he deliberately raised his hand to wipe away his tears. Secretary Zhao frowned. Is there such a thing? It turned out that Xia Huanhuan was really wronged. As soon as these words came out, Aunt Wu, Zhang Ernie, and the villagers who had just made sarcastic remarks to Xia Huanhuan were all panicked. Doesn't this mean that they can't get a share of the more than 100 kilograms of meat? Li's wife. I was just talking nonsense just now. I really didn't mean it. If I dare to make up another word against you in the future, I will be struck by lightning. Aunt Wu was grateful to Xia Huanhuan for saying that it was his family's Mr. Wu who had helped to get her family a larger share, and she was eager to express her feelings and swore. Li's wife. I apologized to you this morning and explained that those words were said by your sister-in-law, Li Qiaoqiao. I don't know how a young girl can be so vicious and make up such dirty words to her own sister-in-law. I promise that I will never say it again. Moreover, if anyone in this area dares to spread bad things about you again, I will sit at their door and scold them for 3 days and 3 nights to vent your anger. Humph! Whose shameless things are I not aware of? If they want to be shameless, I will help them. Xia Huanhuan glanced at Aunt Wu. She had just spoken up for Aunt Wu and asked Aunt Wu's husband to go into the mountains with her. It seemed to have worked. As a new bride, even if she heard people making up rumors about that kind of thing, it would be difficult for her to always lose face and scold them, or even expose their shortcomings and scold them. Besides, there were so many people that she couldn't scold them all. Therefore, it was very necessary to make good use of people like Aunt Wu who were well-informed, had a hold on the dirty deeds of various families, and had explosive fighting power in street scolding. She just spoke up for this. After conquering Aunt Wu, whoever dared to make up a story about her behind her back in the future, Aunt Wu would be in big trouble. With Aunt Wu's loud voice, Li Qiaoqiao became famous. When everyone heard it, they all looked at Li Qiaoqiao and Lulan. Because of Lulan's request for more wild boar meat just now, the whole village was very dissatisfied with her, and naturally they would not be polite to her daughter. No way? Isn't this Li Qiaoqiao the sister-in-law of the new bride? Why are you still accusing your new sister-in-law like this? That's right. You also said that the new daughter-in-law eloped with a man? Stole a man? Didn't you see that the new daughter-in-law adopted several children from the old family without saying a word after she got married? If she wanted to steal a man, she wouldn't be sneaky. She must be crazy to have 3 kids watching in her room. It's obvious that it's not true. Alas. I didn't realize that Li Qiaoqiao was so vicious. I don't know how her new sister-in-law offended her and let her ruin her reputation like this. Humph. I think that Li Qiaoqiao alone would not be able to think of such a vicious trick. Think about it. The 4 boys of the Li family used to give their monthly allowance to Lulan, so shouldn't the sister-in-law also benefit from it? She hasn't done farm work or earned work points for so many years. Now that Li Zhan has married a wife and adopted a child, the allowance must be used for his wife and children to support the family. He probably can't get any benefits from it, so he gets angry and deliberately makes up stories to ruin the new wife's reputation, so as to force her to lose her reputation and divorce Li Zhan.
Oh.
Now that you mention it, does that mean her mother Lulan is also involved? If the upper beam is crooked, the lower beams will be crooked too. What do you think? How can a young girl know so much about this matter? Li Qiaoqiao even has the nerve to make up stories to throw dirty water on her sister-in-law. The villagers pointed fingers at Li Qiaoqiao and Lulan. After all, Li Qiaoqiao hadn't married yet, and her face was already red with shame. Suddenly, she covered her face and cried and ran away. Lulan saw that the villagers' spearheads were suddenly directed at her. Her heart skipped a beat, and she glared at Xia Huanhuan fiercely. She realized belatedly that she seemed to have been
tricked by Xia Huanhuan.
But she couldn't explain how she was tricked. Could it be that Xia Huanhuan could have predicted the wild boar in advance? This kind of thing is impossible, right? Alas. She shouldn't have asked for more wild boar meat just now. Isn't that snatching food from the whole village? She has been shrewd all her life. Why did she just let herself go because of greed? Lulan couldn't stay here and get scolded, so she used the excuse of chasing her daughter and quickly slipped away in disgrace. Seeing that it was almost time, Xia Huanhuan said loudly, "Since Aunt Wu and everyone else have said so, I believe that everyone in our village has been taken advantage of, and I won't pursue it any further. Secretary Zhao, you can decide how to divide the wild boar meat." "I have nothing else to say." Secretary Zhao looked at Xia Huanhuan and couldn't help but admire her secretly in his heart. Rumors about matters between men and women are the most difficult to deal with. First, it is difficult to talk about, and second, everyone loves to hear and spread them. Xia Huanhuan laid out the matter in public without hiding anything. If she really had something fishy, as the rumor said, would she dare to do so? This is called a rumor that has been refuted. Moreover, she killed a big wild boar and divided it equally among the whole village, with almost 3 pounds of meat for each family. Eaters are grateful. The people in this village got the wild boar that others killed, so how can they have the nerve to make up rumors about others behind their backs in the future? Has their conscience been eaten by dogs? Anyone with a bit of righteousness would not stop it immediately, but at least they would not laugh along. The rumor couldn't be spread any further. What's even more amazing is that Xia Huanhuan has conquered Aunt Wu, the core figure in the village's gossip. As for the black material in Aunt Wu's hands, if anyone is really shameless and insists on talking about it, Aunt Wu's mouth can really make you regret being born from your mother's belly. This wave of counterattacks was silent and leak-proof, which can be called perfect. Under the command of Secretary Zhao, the wild boar was quickly gutted, and the pork and offal were weighed separately using the large scale used for annual grain payment. The meat weighed more than 120 kilograms, which was more than 20 kilograms heavier than expected, and the offal weighed more than 30 kilograms. It was easy to distribute. For the pork, the 4 strong laborers who went to the mountains to carry the wild boar back and Uncle Wu's family, a total of 5 families, each received 5 kilograms, and the remaining 25 households each received about 4 kilograms. The offal was divided according to the different parts of the meat, and the weight was slightly different. As for which family would get which part of the meat, no one wanted to suffer a loss, so they decided by drawing lots in the end. Unfortunately, Song Xiaoyu and her uncle Wang Dezhu were lucky today and got the first and second place. The 2 families happily went up, intending to pick the fattest and best hind leg meat ever since they committed suicide and lost power. They have been keeping their tails between their legs, and the family has not been able to open the book for a long time. The pot is ready. However, the villagers who were in charge of distributing the meat were not happy. These 2 families used to bully others in the village, and the villagers hated them. Now, they are allowed to choose first when distributing the meat? Wishful thinking. In the end, under the condemnation and opposition of everyone, These two families were put at the end of the list, and when it was their turn, the villagers deliberately shortchanged them by 2 pounds of meat. Song Xiaoyu was almost mad, but she had no choice but to bear it. Xia Huanhuan was given pork belly, which was of quite good quality. The villagers were grateful to her, and the piece given to her weighed almost 4 pounds. After distributing the meat, they began to distribute the pig offal. The villagers all scrambled for the heart, lungs, liver, and the like. This area is not like Sichuan. Although they can make bacon or air-dried meat, they do not have the dietary custom of making their own sausages. In addition, they think that the pig farm is dirty and uncomfortable, so everyone dislikes the large and small intestines and does not want them. Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "Secretary, if no one wants the large and small intestines, give them to me." When Secretary Zhao heard this, he immediately said, "How can that be? You killed all the wild boars. How can I give you the worst part? I'll just give you the liver." Xia Huanhuan said, "Secretary, I have a use for the pig's large and small intestines." Secretary Zhao saw that Xia Huanhuan insisted, so he gave up. He sighed again. "The fourth daughter-in-law of the Li family, if it weren't for you, we in Qingshui village would definitely not have such a fat year this winter. You said you wouldn't let me report to the state to reward you. Let's put it this way, if you have any difficulties in the future, just tell me. I will do my best to satisfy you." Xia Huanhuan blinked and said, "Secretary Zhao, if you put it that way, I just have a request. I don't know if it's appropriate to put it forward." Secretary Zhao immediately said, "What request? You tell me." Xia Huanhuan said, "Secretary, you saw today my mother-in-law and sister-in-law don't like me, and they spread rumors behind my back to ruin my reputation. I thought, I want to build 2 more houses and live farther away so that I won't offend them again. It's a bit difficult to get a residential plot to build a house. I went up the mountain the other day and saw an open space by the small river at the east end of the village. It seemed like a house had been built there before. I wonder if the village can approve it for me." Secretary Zhao pondered for a moment and promised, "Leave it to me. I'll bring it up at the villagers' meeting in 2 days. If nothing else, just for this big fat wild boar today, whoever in the village dares to disagree, I'll kick him to death." Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "Thank you, Secretary." After finishing her request, Xia Huanhuan carried 4 pounds of wild boar meat and a whole set of pig intestines back home. Pig intestines are more troublesome to handle. The most important thing is that flour or starch is needed to clean the dirty impurities. In that era, white flour was extremely expensive, which family was so luxurious that they had extra flour to clean. So it was normal that no one wanted it. However, Xia Huanhuan knew an economical and cheap method, which was to wash it with wood ash. She first cleaned the large intestine roughly, and then took out a large basin and rinsed it with clean water several times. At this time, the 3 little guys came into the house carrying a basket of firewood. "Mom, you caught a wild boar, a big wild boar, didn't you?" "Mom is so awesome," Xiao Wu asked excitedly. Bebe also repeated in a baby voice, "Mom is so awesome." "Mom, is the big wild boar very fierce?" Bebe wants to see the big wild boar. Xia Huanhuan still had another bigger wild boar in her space, but of course she couldn't take it out to show them, so she smiled and said, "Next time, Mom will take you into the mountains to see it." Li Wen would steal a few glances at Xia Huanhuan from time to time, and after a long time, he asked with a worried look on his face, Are you injured?" Xia Huanhuan was stunned for a moment, then smiled. "Don't worry, those wild boars are no match for me." Li Wen's face was burning, and he ran to the big basin, rolled up his sleeves, and helped Xia Huanhuan wash the pig intestines without saying a word. Xia Huanhuan couldn't help laughing and then directed, "You 3, go to the kitchen and dig some wood ash." When the 3 little guys heard it, they immediately ran to the kitchen and soon got the wood ash. Xia Huanhuan rubbed the large intestine with the wood ash and then washed it with clean water. After repeating this several times, the large intestine was clean and no longer smelled. However, Xia Huanhuan still used flour and oil to clean it twice more before she finished. She separated the large intestine from the small intestine and put the large intestine aside, intending to use it to make braised pork intestines in the evening. The small intestine was made into casings for enema. The meat for enema was, of course, the ready-made minced meat taken out of a space, with fat and lean meat alternating, and large chunks of lean meat. It was marinated with peppers, peppercorns, sorghum wine, salt, sugar, and other seasonings, then stuffed into the casings, and divided into even sections of small intestines with cotton thread, and then hung on the eaves to air dry. It will be ready to eat in about 20 days. As for the 4 pounds of wild boar meat, Xia Huanhuan marinated it with salt, asked the 3 kids to collect branches and leaves of pine and cypress fruit trees to smoke and roast for a few hours, and then hung it on the eaves. At the price of 2 yuan per pound of meat on the black market, this big wild boar alone can be sold for more than 300 yuan. However, even her big spending customer probably couldn't buy a whole boar at once in the black market of the small town. If she didn't sell it as a whole, but sold it separately, the number of buyers she would contact would increase exponentially. Not to mention the high risk it might not be sold out in one winter. Therefore, she still had to go to the county. There were 2 state-owned factories in the county, a textile factory and a wood processing factory with many workers and a canteen in the factory. In the canteen, a whole wild boar should be eaten at once. However, for such large-scale speculation, you have to choose cautious and trustworthy people, and you can't run rashly. If you are reported, you won't make money, but you will probably die first. But once the sales channel is opened, she also put 8 little wild boars in her space, both male and female, and they will grow up quickly and reproduce a lot of little wild boars, so she can keep supplying and selling. However, this is a later story. Although things in the space grow faster than in reality, they also have growth cycles. Vegetables and the like may mature in a few minutes. But for a big wild boar like this, it takes 1 or 2 months to grow from a piglet to an adult wild boar. Xia Huanhuan started to cook dinner while thinking about these things. Cut the large intestine into sections and took out mushrooms and dried chili and green onion from the space, turned on the fire and fry the lard, put in the dried chili and green onion to stir fry, then put in the large intestine to stir fry, season with soy sauce, chicken essence, salt, and sugar, then pour in the mushrooms and continue to stir fry, and soon, the braised pig intestine is ready. Beat 5 eggs and make a fried egg, which is golden and fragrant, a carrot and pork rib soup, boiled sweet potato corn porridge, and paired with white flour steamed buns, and a meal is ready. The next day, Xia Huanhuan went to the town. First, as before, she took some rice, flour, grain, oil, eggs, mushrooms, and the like to sell, while waiting for the big customer named Yan Haotian. After a while, Yan Haotian really showed up, and just like last time, Xia Huanhuan sold him everything she brought with her. This time, Yan Haotian got the tickets for the coal stove and the bicycle as promised. Xia Huanhuan didn't thank him, but gave him a much lower price. After the transaction, he still made a profit of dozens of yuan. Xia Huanhuan whispered to Yan Haotian, "Do you know the canteen purchasing manager of the 2 state-owned factories in the county?" She remembered that Yan Haotian said he was the chef of the canteen last time. Although this was not very credible, it was also a way. It would not hurt to ask, maybe it would open up a way? Yan Haotian looked at her and smiled. "You ask this, do you mean you have other supplies hidden? Didn't I say that I would take whatever you have?"
What?
"Are you afraid that I can't pay?" Xia Huanhuan looked at him in disbelief. "I'm doing serious business. Don't interrupt." Although he was indeed very wealthy and acted like he had no shortage of money.
But
a big wild boar costs 300 yuan. Even an experienced technician in a state-owned factory can only get a few dozen yuan a month, and a factory director can only get 100 or 200 yuan a month. How can a young man like him come up with so much money at once? Yan Haotian raised his chin at her unconvinced and laughed. "Now that you mention it, I really want to get to the bottom of it. So, what kind of materials can make you bypass me and supply directly to the canteen of a large factory?" Xia Huanhuan glanced at him. This man is smart. He knows that she asked that question in order to develop new ways to sell goods. Xia Huanhuan thought about it and felt that it would be okay to tell her, so she said, "My father is a hunter." He shot a big wild boar in the mountains, which weighed more than 150 kilograms. It is too dangerous and time-consuming to sell it in small quantities, so he wants to sell it as a whole. If you really have enough money, it is not impossible for me to give it to you. Yan Haotian looked at Xia Huanhuan with interest for a while and asked, "Tell me, how do you want to set the price?" Xia Huanhuan looked at Yan Haotian in surprise. He wouldn't have so much money, right? The pork on the black market costs 2 yuan, 20 or 30 yuan per kilogram when sold in small quantities. I will sell it as a whole, only 2 yuan per kilogram. The weight must be heavier than 150 kilograms, and it is calculated as a whole of 150 kilograms, which is 300 yuan. Yan Haotian nodded, pondered for a moment, and said, "Okay, but I don't have that much money today. Come again tomorrow and bring the wild boar here, and we will exchange the money and the goods." Xia Huanhuan was a little surprised, but still agreed readily. Although she wanted to open up new routes in the county, there was no need to use this wild boar to explore the way. She could find an opportunity later. It was not bad to be able to sell the wild boar directly in the town this time. She now speculated that Yan Haotian might be a middleman who bought supplies on the black market in the surrounding towns and then sold them in the county. He was unwilling to tell her the route in the county because he was afraid that she would steal his business. He refused to reveal the route in the county, so she would try it herself in the county next time. After saying goodbye to Yan Haotian, Xia Huanhuan took the coal stove ticket and went directly to the supply and marketing cooperative to buy a coal stove for 15 yuan. She bought some coal for 2 yuan and went back. The next day, she went to see Yan Haotian as scheduled. Yan Haotian was stunned when he saw such a big whole pig, and then he believed that Xia Huanhuan was telling the truth. He did not break his promise and directly paid 300 yuan and took the wild boar away. Xia Huanhuan went home in a good mood with 300 yuan in her arms. Although it is not easy to use this money in the village, it will be useful when she gets a letter of introduction and goes to the city. Although Qingshui village is a rural village, it is actually a rural area under the jurisdiction of Beijing City. The town, county, and the next level is Beijing City. In this era, 300 yuan can buy almost a quarter to a fifth of the title deed of a complete quadrangle courtyard in Beijing City. Of course, you don't have to buy it with money. It's the same to exchange it with materials. However, of course, you can't buy it openly. Most of the quadrangle courtyards were managed by the government at that time. The original owners had at most a few pieces of title deeds that are now like waste paper, but after a few years, they are precious title deeds. Her goal is these title deeds. When the special period is over and the real estate items are returned, these title deeds will come in handy. The road must be taken step by step, and Xia Huanhuan is not in a hurry. When she returned to the village, a group of village women were washing clothes and chatting by the river. Everyone's topic these days is wild boar meat, and they talk about it with relish. Zhang Ernie was among them. She was still angry because she was slapped by Xia Huanhuan last time, so she couldn't control her mouth and said to a widow named Wang in the village, "I still think that the big wild boar could not have been killed by Xia Huanhuan herself. There must be a man helping her." Widow Wang was also a gossiper, so she lowered her voice and said, "That's right. The villagers are too easy to fool. A few pounds of meat can make them shut up. In my opinion, let's wait and see. Her man is like that. I'm afraid she won't be able to hold back and go out to find a wild man in a few days. 3 or 4 pounds of pork can't shut your mouths. What's the matter? What I said in front of the whole village that day, do you think I was lying? Or do you think you two are so clean? There is nothing for people to talk about?" Zhang Ernie blushed and said with her neck stiff, I'm innocent. What can you say?" Aunt Wu put her hands on her hips and sneered. "Oh, innocent? How dare you say that? Don't think I don't know that before you married into Qingshui village, you were having a hot affair with a young man in your village. You and your parents are not good people. Your parents dumped him just to get more gifts because you thought his family was poor. You happily married Wang Ergu. Wang Ergu probably doesn't even know that he married a second-hand guy." They also whispered to each other from time to time and pointed fingers at Zhang Ernie. "Oh my, I always see Zhang Ernie with a serious face, but it turns out that she was a second-hand product before she got married. TSK. I really didn't see it. Oh my god. She is so shameless. She is a shameless person, and she has the nerve to spread rumors about Xia Huanhuan. Zhang Ernie blushed when she heard these discussions, and she wanted to dig a hole and crawl into it immediately. How did Aunt Wu know about this? Now, everything was revealed by Aunt Wu on the spot. If she returns home, she will be beaten to death by her husband Wang Ergu. Zhang Ernie regretted it so much at this moment. Why did she just gossip about Xia Huanhuan? Now she has dug a hole for herself.
Wu
Xiaohong, you are talking nonsense. Aunt Wu glanced at her with disdain. I am talking nonsense? How about I call that young man and your husband and confront you on the spot? Zhang Ernie wilted after saying this. Aunt Wu continued, but you don't have to feel too guilty. You are a second-hand product, and your man is not original either. He is even worse than you. Before he got married, he was bewitched by some shameless people. After all, he was just a young boy, so it was understandable. But after marrying you, he still fooled around outside. That's a scumbag. Just make do with each other in this life, and don't leave and harm others. This was the first time that Zhang Ernie heard about her husband Wang Ergu's affair outside. She jumped up and raised her voice. Auntie Wu, what did you say? My husband is having an affair with another woman outside? Widow Wang, who had just been having a great time gossiping with Zhang Ernie and felt like meeting a soulmate, saw that the situation was not good and wanted to slip away. But Auntie Wu did not give her a chance and shouted, Widow Wang, why do you want to run away just when I was talking about you? Zhang Ernie is asking who it is. You serve her man so well. Come out and answer her. Maybe Zhang Ernie can give you 2 pounds of meat. Thank you for serving her man. Zhang Ernie was stunned and turned her head to stare at Widow Wang. Then, she suddenly raised her hand, grabbed Widow Wang's hair and tore it fiercely, and scratched Widow Wang's face with her other hand's long nails. You are so good, Widow Wang. I said you came to my house so often, and I thought you were good to me. It turns out that you were doing dirty things with my man under my nose. I am not Zhang Ernie if I don't tear your mouth apart and beat you until your teeth are all over the ground today. Widow Wang screamed in pain, and her face was covered with blood. She was not willing to be outdone, and scratched with both hands. Zhang Ernie, you are not a good thing either. Erga said he wanted to marry me. Who is more noble than who? Let go quickly, or I'll let Erga beat you to death. Xia Huanhuan passed by and witnessed the scene of 2 second-hand goods fighting for a second-hand scumbag. She couldn't help but admire that Aunt Wu was the ceiling of gossip. This would be much more effective than personally tearing Zhang Ernie and Widow Wang apart. Xia Huanhuan smiled with satisfaction and went home without listening anymore. However, the subsequent story spread in the village later. It is said that Zhang Ernie and Widow Wang fought and cursed each other, and they kept fighting from the river. As for Widow Wang, she was originally said to be a bad luck to her husband. Now her scandal of seducing a married man has been exposed. What else can she do? The 3 troublemakers have no choice but to continue to trouble each other. This matter has been circulating in the village for a long time. Compared with the gossip with details and the scene of dog-eat-dog fights, Xia Huanhuan's little thing is not even qualified to be mentioned. Of course, the villagers also remembered deeply that Zhang Ernie, Wang Ergu, and Widow Wang, the ugly things of Xia Huanhuan, were exposed, and she ended up with a dog biting the dog. It was all because of her conscience being eaten by a dog. She made up stories about Xia Huanhuan behind her back and was exposed by Aunt Wu. Who dare to say anything more? Even the culprits Lu Lan and Li Qiao did not dare to mention Xia Huanhuan again, for fear that Aunt Wu would expose their own family secrets. Xia Huanhuan knew that the rumors had stopped and would not spread any further, so she put it aside. However, rumors are one thing. The malicious looks of those men were another matter. After all, her husband Li Zhan's physical condition was there. Even if there were no rumors, the men in the village would be ready to make a move after a while. Therefore, she started preparing early. Before she traveled through time, her parents sent her to learn taekwondo, judo, and fighting to enable her to protect herself. However, the body she traveled through was weak and stiff because of years of hunger and coldness. Not really. Moreover, even if she knew some tricks, without strength, she would be nothing more than a show of fancy moves. Facing a strong man with overwhelming strength, it would be useless except for bluffing. But bluffing also requires practice. Therefore, every night after the three boys fell asleep, she would go into the space and practice diligently. The spiritual spring in the space can strengthen the body. Now she cooks and drinks water from the spiritual spring in the space every day. Therefore, her physical fitness and skills are getting stronger day by day. It is not a problem to knock down a man who is not prepared in advance. Xia Huanhuan was also a little relieved. This time, the wild boar meat was only distributed in Qingshui village, and she did not leave any extra for Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru. Looking at the bacon and sausages hanging on the eaves, she thought that the ones she brought to them last time should be almost eaten, so she cut a pound of bacon and 2 sausages, and took out a pound of white flour and a pound of sweet potato flour from the space, planning to go back to her mother's house. After Lin Yuru sent her wild rabbit fur once last time, she sent her 2 or 3 more times and taught her how to make wild rabbit fur boots for the 3 children and herself. She tried wearing them with the fur facing inwards, and they were very warm. The 3 children were so happy that they couldn't stop smiling, looking at the new boots on their little feet, their eyes sparkling. Xiao Wu and Bei Bei wore them out and proudly showed off to the 2 girls from the 3rd room and other children in the village that these were boots made of rabbit fur made by their grandfather, which made Li Huanhuan, Li Yingying, and other children of the same age almost cry with envy. Xia Huanhuan didn't specially return the gift, mainly because she was afraid that Lin Yuru was cowardly and Li Tsuehua would scold and force her at her house, and the little things she gave her would probably be taken away by Li Tsuehua. Therefore, Xia Huanhuan decided to send some to them when she estimated that they had eaten enough. Of course, they would not send too many or too expensive things. They would also send sweet potato flour, corn flour, and other things that they usually eat. Although Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru were the original owner's parents, she did not intend to let them know about the space. Just as she was about to leave, Lin Yuru came in first. This time, she still brought 2 hareskins to Xia Huanhuan, asking her to save them and make a close-fitting jacket. Xia Huanhuan was too lazy to run, so she gave the things directly to Lin Yuru and asked her to take them back. When Lin Yuru saw the bacon and sausages made of wild boar meat, she quickly pushed them back and whispered, "Keep these 2. You have 3 growing kids here. Let them eat more meat so that they can grow strong. Your father and I have no shortage of meat. Have you forgotten that he is a good hunter and rabbit trapper? When he heard about you digging a trap to catch a big wild boar, he was so happy that he said you inherited his hunting talent. Now it's winter, and he doesn't have much time to work as a bricklayer or go into the mountains to catch wild rabbits. Since you don't want the meat, we kept it all and only gave you the fur. If we can give you wild rabbit skins every now and then, it proves that we have meat to eat every now and then. Besides," Lin Yuru lowered her voice and said, "the village doesn't know that you killed a wild boar yet. If you take the wild boar meat back and your grandma finds out, she will take the opportunity to make a big fuss." Xia Huanhuan asked suspiciously, "What is she making a fuss about? You and my father have already separated from them, so it's none of their business what I give you." Lin Yuru was about to answer, when Zhou Chuha suddenly came in and said anxiously and worriedly, "Huanhuan, Secretary Zhao asked me to ask you to go to the commune immediately. Your grandmother Li Tsuehua is now suing you and Li Zhan in the commune." Xia Huanhuan was stunned. What is this old witch up to? Upon hearing this, Lin Yuru couldn't help but feel at a loss. You mean my mother-in-law Li Tsuehua?
She.
Why did she come here to make trouble? Waner is her granddaughter after all. Why can't she see Waner doing well? As she said this, she was anxious. What should we do? Your father is still working in another village. This Li Tsuehua must have seen that your father can't come back for a while, so she came here to make trouble. At this time, in the commune, Li Tsuehua was sitting at the gate of the commune, crying and shouting. Oh my God! It's so unfair. My unfilial and selfish granddaughter Xia Huanhuan, after getting married, she didn't respect her elders and just lived a life of luxury by herself. I'm going to sue her for being unfilial and not providing for her elders. Li Cuihua's loud voice was comparable to that of Aunt Wu. Therefore, after a while, many people from Qingshui village who loved to watch the fun gathered around. Secretary Zhao knew what was going on in his heart, and he scolded her harshly. Li Cuihua, that's enough. Stop using your loud voice to make a scene. What's not filial to you? Why is Xia Huanhuan not filial? Don't forget, she is a military dependent. If you slander a military dependent, you can be arrested and sent to jail. Li Cuihua shrank her head in fear, but immediately took advantage of her seniority. What am I afraid of? If you don't give me an explanation today, I will sue Xia Huanhuan's man as well. If the commune doesn't care, I will sue the town and the county. Let her man not be able to serve in the army, and see if she still acts arrogantly. Secretary Zhao had a headache. Li Cuihua, like Lulan, was used to being the head of the family. But Lulan usually pretended to be kind and face-saving, and tried not to tear her face apart no matter what happened. She always instigated and used others to do bad things behind their backs. Li Cuihua was famous for being unreasonable, cursing and beating people, and she did it herself. Everyone in the commune tried to avoid her and avoid conflicts with her, for fear of getting into trouble. Now, she wanted to find trouble with Xia Huanhuan. If she didn't handle it well, it might really affect Li Zhan's future. At this time, Xia Huanhuan had followed Zhou Qiuhou over. Seeing Li Cuihua, she sneered and said, "Sue me? What do you want to sue me for? I want to hear it." Li Cuihua was furious when she saw Xia Huanhuan coming out. "I'm suing you for being unfilial to your elders. You instigated your father and mother to separate from me. This time you killed such a big wild boar, but you didn't even eat a bite of wild boar meat for me, your grandma. You said, if this is not unfilial, then what is it?" Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "So, Grandma, you are talking about wild boar meat? One by one. Let's talk about the wild boar first. A big wild boar weighs about 100 kilograms. You don't say much, but you should give your mother's family 10 or 15 kilograms. Your uncle's family, your third uncle's family, and of course your parents, your mother's family are all starving every day, but you are so happy eating wild boar meat." Li Cuihua became angrier and angrier as she spoke. The people in Qingshui village were tight-lipped. Xia Huanhuan killed a wild boar, and the whole village got a share of the meat. However, Xiajia village and another village in the same commune didn't hear any news at all. Of course, this is also an established rule. Although there are 3 villages in one commune, most of the time, each village is responsible for its own affairs. The secretary of the commune is in overall control, handles disputes, presides over justice, and conveys policies from above to those below. Specific matters are still left to the village head and the village party secretary. For example, if the 3 villages of the entire commune share the distribution of large prey such as wild boars killed in the mountains, then each family will get 3 times less. The 3 villages were unwilling to do so, so after everyone discussed it, they decided that each village would rely on its own ability to kill wild boars. The things they got were only distributed in their own village. However, a wild boar weighing more than 100 kilograms was too tempting. If the news got out, there would be trouble. The people in the village kept silent tacitly. If it wasn't for the news that her granddaughter Xia Lanlan heard from her good friend Li Qiao in Qingshui village last night, saying that Xia Huanhuan had won 20 kilograms of wild boar meat for her meritorious service in killing the wild boar, she would still be kept in the dark. After hearing the news last night, Li Cuihua was so angry that she cursed loudly. If it wasn't for the darkness of the night and she couldn't see the road clearly, she would have run to Qingshui village to make trouble overnight. It was Sun Yuxiu who persuaded her and said, "Mom, I'm afraid it's useless for you to make trouble for Xia Huanhuan, the conscienceless one. I have an idea." Li Cuihua rolled her eyes at her. "Just say whatever you want. It's already this time, and you're still keeping it a secret." Sun Yuxiu was scolded and didn't dare to keep it a secret anymore, so she said, "Mom, I saw it the last time Xia Huanhuan came home. Now she has a soldier as her husband, and she's become so powerful that she doesn't pay much attention to us. If you go to bother her, she might just turn you away. Then, where will you put your face as a grandmother? You'll become the laughingstock of the people in Qingshui village. Li Tsuehua glared at Sun Yuxiu as if to kill someone. Sue her for being unfilial to her elders. Her husband is a soldier, and for the sake of her future, she will definitely be taboo about this matter. She might be afraid and give all the 20 pounds to you. Then, won't we also benefit from it? Lu Hongmei, who was standing by, didn't think as fast as Sun Yuxiu. When she saw Sun Yuxiu showing off in front of Li Tsuehua, she felt very dissatisfied and quickly agreed. Mom, I thought so too. I just didn't have time to say it out loud. Tomorrow, I will go to the commune with you. Xia Lanlan also said jealously. That's right. Grandma, go and sue her. Maybe the commune saw that Xia Huanhuan was not filial and had character problems, so Li Zhan didn't want her and divorced her. When Li Zhan divorced her, she got along so well with Li Zhan's sister Li Qiaoqiao, so she would definitely be the first to get married to Li Zhan as his wife. She didn't care that Li Zhan couldn't do that, nor did she care that Li Zhan was getting married for the second time. After all, with a monthly allowance of 30 yuan, she could eat a pound of meat every day. The Xia family discussed it at night and finally waited until dawn. When Xia Shuangshan went out to do the masonry work, Li Tsuehua immediately took Lu Hongmei and Sun Yuxiu, and of course Xia Lanlan, to the commune to complain. After hearing what Li Tsuehua said, Xia Huanhuan showed an embarrassed and aggrieved expression on her face. Grandma,
What are you talking about?
although I killed the wild boar in the mountains, it also belongs to the commune. If I really give 10 or 8 kilograms to my mother's family, wouldn't that be digging into the collective of Qingshui village? I am now a daughter-in-law married to Qingshui village. If I betray my family and secretly give the wild boar meat that Qingshui village deserves to my parents' family, will the villagers of Qingshui village still tolerate me in the future? As she said this, Xia Huanhuan deliberately raised her hand to wipe the corner of her eyes. At first glance, she looked like a pure and innocent granddaughter who was bullied by the evil grandmother Li Tsuehua for many years. These words successfully provoked the hostility of the people of Qingshui village towards Li Tsuehua. That's right. Li Tsuehua, you are tyrannical and unreasonable in your Xia village, and we can't control it. But your granddaughter Xia Huanhuan married into our Qingshui village, so she is the daughter-in-law of our village. The wild boar she killed, how dare you, a person from another village, take it. It's still 10 or 8 kilograms. Go to your mother. I, a villager, haven't even received 10 or 8 kilograms. It's your turn, an old hag. Humph. You came to our Qingshui village to make trouble so early in the morning? You are really brave. If she wasn't in her 70s, I would have punched her out of the village. The hostility of Qingshui village made Li Tsuehua and other members of the Xia family tremble in fear, fearing that these people would really come up and beat them. Secretary Zhao couldn't stand it anymore and said, Li Tsuehua, have you been kicked in the head by a donkey? A wild boar weighs more than 120 kilograms. After the whole Qingshui village was divided, each household only got about 3 or 4 kilograms. Even your granddaughter Xia Huanhuan only got 3 kilograms of meat. You asked her to give you 8 or 10 kilograms. Isn't this forcing her to make a mistake and embezzle public property? If she really does this, even though you are so old, with your landlord's ideas, you can see whether the whole commune will approve or not. I will kill you. Li Tsuehua couldn't help but shudder when she heard it. She was so arrogant in the village because her family was 3 generations of poor peasants and she had a good family background, so she was so arrogant. If she was really labeled as a landlord, then anyone in the village would be able to step on her head in the future. This is more serious than not being able to eat wild boar meat. Li Tsuehua was frustrated and became more and more angry. Suddenly, she turned around, raised her hand and slapped Xia Lanlan, who was standing behind her, in the face with 2 big slaps. Xia Lanlan was stunned and looked at her grandmother, who always loved her with tears in her eyes. Grandma, why did you hit me? Xia Huanhuan got 20 kilograms of wild boar meat for herself. Are you deaf or blind? Where did you hear this? Not only did you make me look foolish in public, but I was almost labeled as a landlord, and a woman-in-law. What are you thinking? Xia Lanlan was so aggrieved that she burst into tears when she heard this. Grandma. I was just afraid that you wouldn't want to make a fuss for 3 pounds of wild boar meat. If Li Tsuehua didn't come to complain, how could Xia Huanhuan's reputation of being unfilial be known to everyone? How could Li Zhan divorce her? When Li Tsuehua heard this, she was almost angry to death. How could Xia Lanlan be so stupid? However, Xia Lanlan said one thing right. Even if there was only 3 pounds of meat, she, Xia Huanhuan, should give 2 pounds to her parents' home to be filial. It's wrong to keep it all to herself. Li Tsuehua stuck her neck out and said unreasonably, even if I was wrong. It's not 8 or 10 pounds, but she got 3 pounds of wild boar meat, so she should at least give 2 pounds to me, her grandma, to be filial. But she ate it all by herself, and she can't escape the charge of being unfilial. What's more, wild boar meat is one thing. There are other things. She can marry a soldier and get so much allowance from her husband every month, all because I, her grandmother, found a good family for her. But what happened? When she came back, she instigated her parents to separate from me and live alone, and she didn't give me a penny. Isn't this planning to let me starve to death? You say, isn't this unfilial? Anyway, I don't care. If you don't make a decision for me today, Secretary Zhao, I will go to the town to complain at noon. Xia Huanhuan deliberately asked. Then, Grandma, tell me, how should I be filial to you? Li Tsuehua glanced at Xia Huanhuan coldly, cleared her throat, and said, You are married to a good man now, and you are rich. Let's not talk too much. It's always right to give $5 a month to me, your grandmother, as a filial piety. If you agree in front of the secretary today, I won't sue. Otherwise, let alone you, I will ruin your man's future. Xia Huanhuan sneered. Sure enough, in addition to the wild boar meat, they were also thinking about Li Zhan's 30 yuan allowance. The people in Qingshui village couldn't help but explode. Aunt Wu was the first one who couldn't help but said, Oh, I really can't stand it anymore. There are such shameless people in the world. I haven't heard of grandparents fighting over granddaughters for being unfilial. What's the matter? Li Tsuehua, are your 3 sons all dead or what? Instead of finding 3 sons to take care of you in your old age, you come here to make a fuss about a granddaughter you sold? And the good marriage you found for me, to put it bluntly, which family finds a granddaughter who will marry and live as a widow? If Li Zhan didn't love his wife and gave all the allowance to her, who knows how your family would make fun of Xia Huanhuan behind her back? He is so shameless. Xia Huanhuan raised her eyes and glanced at Aunt Wu, a little surprised. She didn't expect that Aunt Wu, who always liked to gossip, would actually say a fair word for her. No wonder, although Aunt Wu has always been gossiping, she has always been popular in the village. It seems that she has a good character and is a straightforward person. That's right. I was wondering what was going on so early in the morning. It turns out that they were calculating the subsidies that Li Zhan worked so hard for. How shameless. I heard that the Xia family asked Lu Lan for 30 yuan and married Xia Huanhuan here. Isn't this selling their granddaughter? Otherwise, who would marry their daughter to an injured man and live as a widow? Now I heard that Li Zhan has a lot of subsidies and is willing to give it to his wife, so he is jealous and comes here to ask for money. Bah! Shameless thing. When Li Tsuehua heard these insults, her face turned pale and blue, but she was willing to give it up today. That's $5 a month. Call her shameless if you want. Can $5 be more important? Lu Lan in the crowd turned pale. This Li Tsuehua is getting more and more unreasonable. She came to complain, and now she is eyeing her son's allowance. Who gave her the face? However, she still suppressed the urge to scold Li Tsuehua. Let Li Tsuehua make a fuss first. If Xia Huanhuan gives the 5 yuan a month, she will sue Xia Huanhuan when Li Zhan comes back, saying that she is a traitor, stealing money from her family to support her parents' home, and letting her 3 little guys starve. If Xia Huanhuan doesn't give it, Li Cuihua will definitely make a big fuss. If it really reaches the town and the county, she, as a mother-in-law, will have the right to force Xia Huanhuan to divorce Li Zhan for the sake of her son's future. Once divorced, won't the dozens of yuan allowance be back in her hands? Seeing Xia Huanhuan remain silent, Li Cuihua said angrily, Xia Huanhuan, you're going to give me 5 yuan a month or not? Just give me your final word. Don't delay me from going to the town or the county to file a complaint. Xia Huanhuan glanced at her indifferently, speaking succinctly and to the point. No. Li Cuihua was stunned. Isn't Xia Huanhuan as stupid as Xia Lanlan? Isn't she afraid that her man's future will be ruined? If so, the 30 yuan will be gone in the future. It would be better to agree to give it to her so that she can still keep 25 yuan, right? Xia Huanhuan looked at her and said coldly, Not only will I not give it to you, but today in front of the secretary, I will officially sever ties with your grandmother, as well as my uncle, third uncle, and cousins. Li Cuihua was speechless for a long time. Then she jumped 3 feet high and said proudly, Great. Xia Huanhuan, you unfilial thing. Secretary Zhao, you just heard it, didn't you? Isn't this a clear proof of her unfilial piety? Xia Huanhuan, if you dare to sever ties with me, I will go to the county to sue you, and I will win. Secretary Zhao was speechless on the side. Li Cuihua was jumping up and down, but Xia Huanhuan didn't say that she would sever ties with her own parents, but she would sever ties with her grandmother, who is a generation apart. Isn't this normal? In fact, which family in the countryside is not like this? Don't they all live their own lives? It's just that they don't say it openly. However, Li Zhan was of a special status after all, and Xia Huanhuan's firm words really gave people a reason to criticize him. At this time, a powerful voice suddenly rang out. Break off the relationship. It's just that it's not my daughter who is breaking off the relationship with you, but my son who is breaking off the relationship with you. Everyone looked back and saw Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru rushing over in a hurry. It turned out that just after Zhou Qiuhao went to Xia Huanhuan to call her, Lin Yuru did not come over, but immediately ran to find Xia Shuangshan. Li Cuihua heard what Xia Shuangshan said. Her eyes widened in astonishment, and her heart skipped a beat.
Old.
Second brother.
What do you mean by this?
What do you mean you are breaking off the relationship with me? Lu Hongmei and Sun Yuxiu on the side were also a little stunned. Why is Xia Shuangshan so tough recently? First, he was determined to separate the family and live on his own, and now he wants to break off the relationship with Li Cuihua? Xia Shuangshan looked at her coldly and said word by word, I said it literally. I, Xia Shuangshan, will sever my relationship with you, Li Cuihua, in front of Secretary Zhao of the commune today. From now on, I no longer recognize you as my mother, and I will no longer be your son. Secretary Zhao, please be a witness. I have severed my relationship with Li Cuihua, which means my daughter has severed her relationship with Li Cuihua. It's just. He looked at Li Cuihua coldly. Since I was the one who proposed to sever the relationship, then it is me, Xia Shuangshan, who is unfilial. It has nothing to do with my daughter. Li Cuihua, if you want to go to the town or the county to sue me and have me put in jail, go ahead. If you dare to throw dirty water on my daughter again, don't blame me for making a fool of myself and causing unrest in your Xia family. Li Cuihua's lips trembled, and she couldn't utter a word. She had always thought that Xia Shuangshan separated from her just because he was instigated by Xia Huanhuan and was impulsive for a moment. She also thought that after a few months, Xia Shuangshan would change his mind and come back to work for the Xia family. She never expected that this second son, who had always been dull, obedient, and filial, would suddenly be so cold-blooded and heartless. To break off the relationship with her.
Old.
Second son. Duan, scare your mother. If you continue to be so arrogant, I will let your eldest brother and your third brother beat you up. Xia Shuangshan sneered. You can let them try. If the two of them come at me together, I am not Xia Shuangshan if I don't fight back and beat them until they cry for their parents. Fear flashed in Li Cuihua's eyes. Her second son was serious. He really wanted to break off the relationship with her. Seeing that something was not right, Lu Hongmei and Sun Yusho quickly tried to persuade him. Uncle, you. Stop joking. Look how scared you are to our mother. Xia Shuangshan glanced at the two of them coldly. Who is joking? Secretary Zhao. Please help me write a document, and I will put my fingerprints on it. Seeing that Xia Shuangshan was adamant, Lu Hongmei and Sun Yusho exchanged glances and walked towards Lin Yuru. Sister-in-law, please persuade my second brother. This breakup is no joke. Do you really want to have a reputation for being unfilial in the future? This man was impulsive and could not think so far ahead. As women, don't we have to persuade him by his side? Lu Hongmei held Lin Yuru's hand and said earnestly, That's right, second sister-in-law. If you don't quickly persuade your second brother to give up this unfilial idea of severing the relationship, then the whole village will poke your spine and scold you, saying that you don't want to support your parents-in-law and instigated your husband to do this. Sun Yusho also said quickly. The two of them knew it clearly. If Xia Shuangshan just wanted to split up the family, there would be room for maneuver, but if the relationship was really severed, then the Xia family would no longer have two old oxen working hard to earn work points and money, and Li Tsuehua's retirement would all fall on their two families. Who could bear this? Lin Yuru looked at the two of them, firmly pushed them away, and said, I am just a woman. I support my man's decision. Besides, Li Tsuehua is going to go to the town and county to sue my daughter. If I stop my man again, wouldn't that be harming my daughter? Seeing that even Lin Yuru, who was always cowardly and easily bullied, was so determined, Lu Hongmei and Sun Yusho had some uncertain expressions on their faces. Secretary Zhao showed a cautious and serious expression on his face after hearing what Xia Shuangshan said. Xia Shuangshan, breaking off an engagement is no small matter. Do you really want to do this? Xia Shuangshan nodded and said, Secretary Zhao, when it comes to my daughter's marriage, I was a rascal and a coward. I didn't fulfill my responsibilities as a father and let Li Tsuehua manipulate me and didn't protect her. Fortunately, God has mercy on me. Although my son-in-law, he is a real man. He is willing to give the allowance to my daughter and not let her suffer any grievances. I can't just watch Li Tsuehua come to mess things up again and ruin my daughter's life. Please help me write a document. Li Tsuehua came back to her senses from the shock at this time. She suddenly sat down on the ground, crying and cursing. Oh, Xia Shuangshan, you unfilial son. For a money-losing girl, you even don't want your mother. I raised you with great difficulty for so many years, and even found a wife for you.
You.
This is how you repay me.
Wow, wow, wow.
This is so unfair. Why doesn't God send down a thunderbolt to kill this unfilial son? The villagers nearby couldn't stand it anymore. Moreover, because the incident was quite a big deal, many villagers from Xia village, including the village head and the village party secretary, came over and a crowd of people stood in front of the gate of the commune. Someone from Xia village couldn't help but sneered. Li Tsuehua, you really know how to flatter yourself. Who in our village doesn't know who else's background? Forget about anything else. Your second son earns the most work points and money, but he is the last one to get married. Even your third son, who is several years younger than him, has married before it's his turn. Which of the betrothal gifts for your eldest and third sons was not earned by your second son? This mother is so biased, and she still has the nerve to be a mother. That's right. In this matter, I really support Xia Lauer. Even I, a person from another village, feel that Xia Lauer has lived a miserable life all these years. If it were me, I would have broken off the relationship with this biased old hag long ago. Me too. If anyone dares to harm my child, no matter who it is, I will not be a man if I don't slap her in the face. This is a good way to break off the relationship. Li Tsuehua didn't expect Xia Shuangshan to be so unfilial that he wanted to break off the relationship with her and not provide for her in her old age. As a result, all the people in the commune stood on Xia Shuangshan's side and criticized her unanimously. They were so shocked that they forgot to continue crying and scolding. Xia Shuangshan looked at Li Tsuehua with a cold face and said, Li Tsuehua, although it is a breakup of the relationship, Don't worry, I will give you $1 a month for the sake of your giving birth to me. But if I hear you say that my daughter is uncomfortable with you again, you don't have to think about this dollar in the future. Xia Shuangshan was actually unwilling to give this dollar in his heart. But the man his daughter married was a soldier after all. He was not afraid if Li Tsuehua sued him. He was afraid that even if he was sued, it would still affect his daughter and son-in-law. So he just regarded this dollar as feeding the dog. In this way, even if Li Tsuehua sued him, he would stand on the right side and not be afraid. Moreover, with the benefit of this dollar hanging on, Li Tsuehua would be hesitant because she was afraid of losing even $1. Secretary Zhao saw this and felt that although the relationship was severed, the pension money was given. Li Tsuehua would not be able to cause any trouble even if she went to the county or Beijing, let alone the county. Therefore, he quickly wrote the document and read it in public. Xia Shuangshan pressed his fingerprint without hesitation. Although Li Tsuehua still wanted to make a fuss, she was afraid that Xia Shuangshan would really not give her the $1 in the future. So she went back in disgrace after Lu Hongmei and Sun Yuxiu persuaded her to be patient and think long and hard. Lu Lan and Li Qiaoqiao in the crowd went home in anger. What a scumbag, not even one of them can fight. Xia Shuangshan's hands were still shaking when he got the letter of severance. Fortunately, he came in time, otherwise, if his daughter was really accused of being disrespectful to the elders, he would hate himself to death. Lin Yuru came forward, gently pulled the corner of his clothes, and gently called out, "Wanner's father, from now on. We really have nothing to do with Li Tsuehua." Xia Shuangshan came back to his senses, looked back at his wife, and then looked up at Xia Huanhuan, who had been watching quietly since he came, and couldn't help but look away with some shame. Since the last time he returned to her parents' home, Lin Yuru had been coming to give Xia Huanhuan wild rabbit for every now and then. This was the first time Xia Shuangshan saw Xia Huanhuan again. He felt ashamed and had no face to see his daughter. He whispered to Lin Yuru, "Well, it's okay. Let's go home." Xia Huanhuan said, "It's almost noon. Have dinner at my place before going back." "Dad, you haven't been to my house yet, right? You don't even know where your daughter's home is. If I am bullied by my man in the future, how can you come to my house to vent my anger?" After hearing what Xia Huanhuan said, Xia Shuangshan suddenly raised his head and stared at his daughter with wide eyes. Then, as a grown man, his eyes were a little wet.
"Oh,"
he hurriedly responded vaguely. In fact, when Xia Huanhuan came back last time, he also vaguely felt that although Xia Huanhuan still called him dad and brought back so many things, she seemed to be somewhat alienated from him and Lin Yuru. He could understand this. After all, he was so cowardly in the past. Li Tsuehua wanted to sell his daughter for 30 yuan to become a widow. He didn't even say a word because he was afraid that he would have no son to support him in his old age. It was already a favor for his daughter to come back. But the meaning of Xia Huanhuan's words just now, that she was willing to let him enter her house, made him feel even more guilty and ashamed. Xia Huanhuan didn't think so much. She was just a little surprised that Xia Shuangshan would take the initiative to break off the relationship with Li Tsuehua for her daughter. In addition, when she got married, Xia Shuangshan did find his conscience and stood in front of her, not letting Xia Sanqi beat her. When he returned home, he also firmly separated from Li Tsuehua and later gave her a lot of wild rabbit fur. So, she planned to give corresponding returns. She is a person who clearly distinguishes between gratitude and resentment. Whether she has received benefits or bullied by others, she will repay them. The reason why she did not avenge the incompetent parents on behalf of the original owner was only because the original owner was kind. The feelings and memories she received from the original owner about Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru were more of pity and worry, rather than resentment. She was worried that after she ran away from the marriage, her parents would be embarrassed by their grandmother and that they would have no children to take care of them in their old age. Even until her death, she never thought of revenge or resentment against them. Although Xia Huanhuan did not agree with the original owner's kindness, but she still chose to respect the original owner and decided to continue to play the role of daughter for her. Of course, She did not intend to forgive Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru for the original owner, because no matter how they make up for it and repent in the future, they could not change the fact that the original owner died in despair, helplessness, and helplessness. The daughter they wanted to make up for was no longer alive. Xia Huanhuan led Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru back to her home, and it was the first time for the three cubs to see Xia Shuangshan. After hearing grandmother Lin Yuru introduce that this was their grandfather, Li Beibei was the first to run up obediently, showing Xia Shuangshan the new boots on his feet, and shouting in a baby voice, Grandpa, look, Beibei's rabbit fur boots. So beautiful and warm. Li Wu also shouted excitedly, Grandpa, you can catch wild rabbits, right? Can you take me into the mountains in the future to trap many wild rabbits? Even Li Wen looked up at Xia Shuangshan with excitement and admiration. I also want to learn how to catch wild rabbits. Xia Shuangshan looked down at the three little guys, feeling somewhat relieved. Although his daughter married an impotent man and could not have children of her own, but the son-in-law was willing to give her an allowance, so it was a good destination. Although these three little guys were adopted, he had met the eldest son of the Li family several times before he died and knew that he was a good man and his kids should not be too bad in character. The daughter now has both sons and daughters, and she no longer has to worry about being left alone in her old age and having no hope for the future.
Hey,
wait until it snows in 2 days, and Grandpa will take you three into the mountains. Once it snows, the rabbits will be frozen, and we can catch them one at a time. When your mother was young, she went into the mountains with me, and she was very good at catching them. We can catch 3 or 4 in one trip. Xia Shuangshan said excitedly, while touching the heads of the three little guys. Li Wu and Li Beibei's eyes sparkled, and their short legs jumped with excitement. Mom is so awesome. Beibei Xiaowu wants to be as awesome as Mom. Li Wen's eyes were also full of admiration, and he couldn't help but secretly look back at Xia Huanhuan. Xia Huanhuan couldn't help but recall after hearing this, and a melancholy smile appeared on the corners of her lips. She completely inherited the original owner's memory. Although the original owner's life was full of bitterness and grievances after she grew up, she still had many good memories when she was 5 or 6 years old. Going into the mountains with Xia Shuangshan to hunt and catch wild rabbits is one of them. Xia Shuangshan would let her sit on his neck, and his warm big hands would lead her small hands into the mountains. He would also carry her on his back when she fell asleep from exhaustion, with the wild rabbits and wild pheasants caught by the father and daughter hanging around his waist, and walk out of the mountains with light steps, for fear of accidentally waking her up. Because of these good memories, the original owner never blamed her parents too much until her death. Xia Huanhuan went into the inner room alone, took out a pound of white flour, 2 pounds of pork, and a few fresh winter bamboo shoots and wild mushrooms from the space, and then walked out and said with a smile, I just went to town yesterday and bought meat and noodles. Let's make dumplings today. When Lin Yuru heard this, she waved her hands and said, Wanner, your father and I are not outsiders. You see, we have steamed cornmeal and sweet potato flour steamed bread, and just cook some sweet potato and corn paste and make some pickles. You can make dumplings for yourself and the 3 kids. Xia Shuangshan also stopped her and said, Your mother is right. Although your husband gives you an allowance, you have to spend it sparingly. Otherwise, he will scold you for being a spendthrift woman. Xia Huanhuan couldn't help but said angrily, He dares. Besides, if he dares to scold me, don't you, your father, come to teach him a lesson for me. This sentence made Xia Shuangshan blush, and he raised his hand to scratch his head embarrassedly. Li Zhan is a soldier. He has been through life and death on the battlefield. He may not be able to beat him. However, if Li Zhan really dares to bully his daughter, he will go even if he is beaten to death. Li Zhan, who was far away somewhere, couldn't help but sneeze several times. It was getting colder day by day, and I didn't know if Huanhuan and the 3 little guys had bought quilts and cotton clothes, and whether they were cold. Don't catch a cold. Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, Don't worry, I know my limits. Besides, today is a day worth celebrating. On a day like this, it would be unreasonable not to eat dumplings, right? Even if you don't eat, the three little guys and I will eat." After hearing this, Lin Yuru and Xia Shuangshan didn't persuade them anymore. Xia Huanhuan said, "I went to the mountains 2 days ago and dug some winter bamboo shoots and picked some wild mushrooms, which are just right for making dumplings with winter bamboo shoots and pork fillings and mushrooms and pork fillings." Xia Huanhuan and Lin Yuru began to make arrangements for chopping stuffing and making dumplings. Peel off the withered and yellow skin of the winter bamboo shoots until the white and tender part is exposed, and cut them in half. Boil water in a pot. Add the halved winter bamboo shoots after the water boils, and remove them after boiling for 7 or 8 minutes. After that, take them out and rinse them with cold water. The preliminary treatment of the winter bamboo shoots is done, which can remove the oxalic acid in the winter bamboo shoots and make the taste much better. Next, chop the pork into mincemeat. This job requires strength, so Xia Shuangshan will do it. The piece of meat that Xia Huanhuan took out from the space is just right in fat and lean, almost the perfect ratio of 30% fat and 70% lean. After the meat is minced, chop the cooked winter bamboo shoots into small pieces and mix them with the meat filling. Xia Huanhuan also beat 3 free-range eggs into the pot, and then season them with salt, a little cooking wine, soy sauce, chicken essence, etc. Lin Yuru said with some distress, "The meat filling is already very good. It's a waste to beat 3 more eggs into it." Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "Don't waste it, it tastes better this way. Besides, it's rare to be extravagant, so I can save it later." She naturally didn't plan to save it later. She could harvest hundreds of eggs and duck eggs in the space every day, and she didn't have time to eat them. This was just to comfort Lin Yuru, so that she wouldn't worry about her spending lavishly and suffering again after the allowance was spent. After hearing this, Lin Yuru didn't say anything else. The dumpling skin is made of 80% white flour and 20% sweet potato flour. Xia Huanhuan doesn't hate coarse grains. In the world before she traveled through time, people would buy coarse grains to replace fine rice and white flour, thinking that coarse grains contain more dietary fiber than refined white flour and white rice, and are healthier. Therefore, mixing a little can reduce Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru's worries, and it is also healthier. Moreover, she didn't like to be reserved about cornmeal, but sweet potato flour was sweet, and mixed with white flour, it had a different flavor. Soon, the dough was mixed. Xia Shuangshan was responsible for rolling the dumpling skin with a rolling pin, while Xia Huanhuan and Lin Yuru were responsible for wrapping it. Xia Wen, Xiaowu, and Beibei were also busy. Xia Huanhuan specially prepared some stuffing and skin for them and asked them to sit aside and learn how to wrap the dumplings. The 6 chubby hands of the 3 little guys were clumsy, but very serious in wrapping the meat stuffing into the skin. Later, they actually wrapped it in a good shape. Lin Yuru was more relieved to see that the 3 little guys knew how to work at such a young age. Although it was still a little early, the little guys who could help with the housework should not be ungrateful when they grow up. In a short while, a plate of more than 60 round and plump dumplings was wrapped. Li Wen ran to light the fire, and when the water boiled, he put the dumplings in, rolled them a few times, and they were cooked. Xia Huanhuan served dumplings to everyone. Xia Shuangshan served 20 dumplings Lin Yuru, and she served 15 each, and the 3 kids served about 7 or 8 dumplings each. It was the first time for Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru to eat so many dumplings in one meal. In the past, even for the New Year's Eve dinner, there were always more people than dumplings in the Xia family. Because of Li Tsuehua's partiality, their second room was always the last to be served. 5 or 6 dumplings in each person's bowl was already a lot. Xia Shuangshan looked at the white and plump dumplings in the bowl that were almost squeezed with no space, and his nose felt a little sour. He couldn't help but stand up and go to the kitchen to get a bowl. Xia Huanhuan looked at him suspiciously. "Dad, what are you doing with the bowl?" Xia Shuangshan said as he was about to push the dumplings out of his bowl. "There are too many. We can't finish them all in one meal. I'll push some out and you can keep some for you and the 3 kids in the evening." Lin Yuru nodded and said, "Push half of mine out too. The remaining half will be enough." Xia Huanhuan raised her voice slightly and said, "Don't push any of them out. How come there are so many? I can easily eat 15 dumplings by myself, but for someone as big as you, 20 dumplings would be too little for me. You can only eat half full at best. And you too, the 3 kids are so small, they can probably eat 7 or 8. That's all you can eat? Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru were both standing awkwardly, not knowing whether to pick the dumplings or not. Xia Huanhuan sighed, knowing that they were used to being poor and couldn't change their frugal habits all of a sudden, so she said again, "Didn't I say that today is a celebration? Let's be extravagant for once. Eat yours. Besides, I'll need you to help me out later, so this meal won't be for nothing." Xia Shuangshan heard this and immediately said, "What kind of work? You tell me." Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "Eat the dumplings first, and then we'll talk. If you don't eat, just pretend it never happened." Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru looked at each other and had to eat up the whole bowl of dumplings obediently. The 3 kids also held their bowls and chopsticks that were much bigger than their hands and ate the dumplings seriously. Biting through the chewy outer skin, the meaty filling inside was fragrant, and paired with the crispy winter bamboo shoots, it was extremely delicious, and everyone's mouth was greasy. In those years in the countryside, it was not easy to have a full meal. Didn't everyone only eat 5/10 full, or even 3/10 full? After the meal, Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru felt as if this was the most filling and delicious meal they had eaten in the past 10 or 20 years. Xia Huanhuan then said, "Dad, if you have time during the winter, come and help me build the fence in my yard. I've almost picked up the tree stumps, branches, and other things for the fence in the mountains these days." Xia Shuangshan was stunned for a moment before he realized that Xia Huanhuan was talking about the thing that Xia Huanhuan had asked him to do before, and he agreed without thinking. "Okay. No need to wait for a few days. I'll get it for you this afternoon." Xia Huanhuan was stunned. She hadn't thought of doing it so hastily, but it's better to do it today than today. After the village approves the homestead, she will build a new house, which will probably have to wait until the beginning of next spring. It will be good to build the fence of the house here first. The wooden stakes, branches, bamboo branches, and the like used to build the fence are naturally the ready-made economic trees in the space. Xia Shuangshan was not vague and did it as soon as he said it. Lin Yuru and Xia Huanhuan also helped. Sure enough, they built a fence that was almost 1 person high in the afternoon. In this way, it was separated from the place where Wang Guixiang and Lu Lan lived, and a door was opened from the other side. In the future, they would not have to be under the eyes of Wang Guixiang and Lu Lan when going in and out. The days are short in winter, and it gets dark quickly. Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru insisted on not staying for dinner and rushed back to Xia village. Xia Huanhuan didn't force it, but still insisted that Lin Yuru take back a pound of white flour, a pound of wild boar meat, and 10 eggs as a reward for building the fence. Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru couldn't refuse, so they accepted it. On the way back, Lin Yuru suddenly whispered, "Wanner's father, do you feel that? Our Wanna has been different since she was caught on the day of her wedding?" Xia Shuangshan was stunned for a moment. In fact, he also felt the same way. He thought for a while, then said, "Yes. However, it is normal for Wanner to change like this. Have you forgotten that she went into the mountains alone 2 years ago to find the old ox lost by the commune? Which ordinary girl would dare to do that? She used to be submissive in the Xia family. Wasn't it because of the cowardice of the 2 of us as parents? Even if she resisted, we didn't support her, but let her suffer more beatings. Now that she is married, and the man she married is willing to protect her, doesn't she have the confidence? She is not afraid of Li Tsuehua. Alas. In the final analysis, it's all our fault." Lin Yuru nodded and said, "Alas. Let's not talk about anything else. The fact that Wanna married a disabled husband and Wanner's recommendation to go to college that year, we didn't protect these 2 things. We will be sorry to Wanner for the rest of our lives." Now it seems that although Xia Wanner's marriage is a blessing in disguise, at least it is much better than the life in the Xia family. But her husband has flaws after all, and Lin Yuru feels uncomfortable when she thinks about it. As for the fact that the recommendation to go to college was taken away by Xia Fangfang, no matter what they do, they can't make up for it. That opportunity was earned by their daughter, who risked her life to go to the mountains to find the old ox. It was her only and best chance to change her destiny, but it was taken away by Xia Fangfang. Lin Yuru raised her hand to wipe away her tears and couldn't help muttering, "Alas. Wanner is not my biological daughter. But when I found her outside the town that year, I was so happy that I had to bring her back to raise her myself, thinking that I must treat her as my own daughter. It's a pity that I was cowardly and weak, and in the end I didn't do a good job as a mother. If we had not been so selfish and sent her to a better family to raise, she would not have suffered so much with us." Xia Shuangshan sighed and said, "Why are you talking about this again? How sad would Wanner be if she knew that her biological parents didn't want her and abandoned her? It was God's will that we picked her up back then. She has suffered so much injustice over the years, and no matter how much we say now, it can't undo it. From now on, we can never do anything wrong to let our daughter down again." Xia Huanhuan didn't know about the conversation between Xia Shuangshan and Lin Yuru on the way back, and, of course, she didn't know that there was another secret about the original owner's life experience. In the evening, she used the remaining winter bamboo shoots and sausages to make fried winter bamboo shoots and sausages and cooked 4 hard-boiled eggs. She made fried dumplings with the remaining dumplings at noon and paired them with large white steamed buns. It was another hearty dinner. At this time, facing the fence wall that had risen from the ground in just one afternoon, Lu Lan's face became even gloomier. The courtyard wall has been built. Who are they guarding against? It seems that she has to deal with Xia Huanhuan quickly. If the rumors didn't spread last time, then make the rumors a fact that was set in stone. Lu Lan thought, and silently planned another vicious plan in her heart. At this time, Li Qiao came back listlessly. Lu Lan was furious and cursed in a low voice. "Qiao, what are you doing outside? You just came back after dark. Don't you know that people in the village are saying bad things about you? You are an unmarried girl. Do you still have any shame?" Li Qiao was scolded, but she didn't say anything back. She went back to the house, lay on the bed, and covered her face with a quilt. After Lu Lan finished scolding, she regretted scolding too harshly. After all, she was her daughter, and she would most likely marry Su Jiqing in the future, and her household registration would be transferred to the city to work as a worker. She was counting on this daughter to take her to the city to live a good life in the future. Therefore, she slowed down her tone and asked, "Qiao, what's wrong with you?
Who wronged you outside?"
Mom will go to her tomorrow to vent your anger." Li Qiao sat up and said with a sad face, "Mom, I told Brother Jiyuan about our affairs, and it seems that Xia Huanhuan saw it. He told me not to go to him during this period of time, saying that he was afraid of gossip. Now Brother Jiyuan doesn't get along with me anymore." Lu Lan's face turned pale when she heard this. She had been smart all her life, so how could her daughter be so stupid? How could Su Jiyuan do this because Xia Huanhuan caught him? It was obvious that he had cheated on her, so his thoughts on Li Qiao faded, and he wanted to slip away. It seemed that she couldn't wait for Su Jiyuan to return to the city, so she had to use a method to force Su Jiyuan to admit his mistake. Even if they didn't get married first, she couldn't let Qiao be dumped. Early the next morning, Xia Huanhuan got up and wanted to go to the town again. She thought about it and decided to find a way to go to the county, at least to find out the situation in the county and the black market first, so that she could find a way to sell supplies later. Going to the county is different from going to the town, and you need a letter of introduction from the village. She didn't have a legitimate reason, so even if Secretary Zhao was a good person, it would be difficult for him to give her one. The village was idle in winter, so there was no reason to do anything, so we had to go to the town to think of a solution. After thinking about it, Xia Huanhuan actually had a general direction to work towards. Therefore, when she arrived in the town, she went straight to the Supply and Marketing Cooperative. The director of the Supply and Marketing Cooperative was named Zheng. He had a good impression of Xia Huanhuan and knew that she was a military family. When he saw her coming, he smiled and asked, "Are you the daughter-in-law of the Li family? What are you going to buy this time? If it's a big item, tell me in advance so that I can prepare it for you first." Xia Huanhuan also asked, "Director, I may need to buy a bicycle in the early spring of next year. A second-hand one is fine. Can you get some in stock?" Director Zheng was stunned for a moment and said, "A Phoenix brand bicycle costs 150 yuan. Even a miscellaneous brand one costs 70 or 80 yuan. Can your man's allowance buy it? Xia Huanhuan nodded and smiled. I'm saving money by eating frugally. The main thing is that the little kid at home will go to school in the early spring of next year. There is only one primary school in the town within dozens of miles of our place. It takes a lot of time to walk there, and it is hard for the children. I can save money for a few months and buy a similar one. Why let the children suffer like this? When Director Zheng heard this, he was deeply moved. Li's wife, you are so good to these kids. I am afraid you treat them better than their biological parents. It is their good fortune to be adopted by you. Xia Huanhuan did not talk about this topic anymore and asked naturally, Director, do you have any plans to go to the county to purchase goods recently? If so, can I go with you? I don't know whether my husband can come back for the new year this year. I am very worried about him, and I want to go to the military liaison point in the county to ask. Although I can ask through the village, but this kind of thing is somewhat embarrassing. I want to say that because this matter requires a letter of introduction to the county, it is not easy to get Secretary Zhao, so I want to borrow the excuse of your supply and marketing cooperative to purchase goods. I have been good at arithmetic since I was a child. I can help. Director Zheng heard that, on the one hand, Xia Huanhuan's reason was reasonable. Secondly, since Song Xiuyue was fired, although she tried to recruit a few country girls to look after the counter, she was not very satisfied with them. She just fired the one with some dirty hands and feet in the past 2 days, and the position of salesperson was vacant. She had her eyes on Xia Huanhuan and wanted her to be the salesperson. Every time Xia Huanhuan came to buy things, she bought a large amount of variety. When she was just beginning to calculate the amount of money on the paper, Xia Huanhuan had already blurted out the total amount. At first, she didn't quite believe it. She had counted the last pair, and she had never made a mistake. After thinking about it, Director Zheng decided to do Xia Huanhuan a favor. He also took the opportunity to go to the county to purchase goods to observe her. Therefore, Director Zheng smiled and said, You are so lucky. I just have to go to the county department store to purchase goods tomorrow. Go back to the village to get a letter of introduction, come early tomorrow morning, and we will take a car together. Xia Huanhuan didn't expect it to be so smooth. She couldn't help but smile and said, Thank you, Director. I will definitely come early tomorrow. After leaving the supply and marketing cooperative, Xia Huanhuan went to the black market again. Now that she didn't have a bicycle, it was not easy to walk to the town for almost an hour. It couldn't be wasted. This time, she didn't meet Yan Haotian. Xia Huanhuan didn't care. She took out 50 eggs and 20 wild duck eggs, 2 old hens, 5 pounds of fat hind leg meat, and a basket of crisp and tender winter bamboo shoots from the space in advance. Chicken eggs cost 1 cent each, and wild duck eggs cost 1.5 cents each, and they were all sold out very quickly. The old hens were fresh, weighing about 2 pounds each, and they were quickly bought at the price of 3 yuan each. Judging from the tone of the buyer, most of them wanted to buy them back and raise them secretly for laying eggs. Xia Huanhuan didn't care whether the other party bought them to eat or feed them to lay eggs. Anyway, these chickens were raised in the space, so they would definitely not fail to lay eggs and cheat people. The hind leg meat was divided into small pieces of 1 pound or half a pound. The ones taken out of the space were just slaughtered, much fresher than those sold in state-owned butcher shops. The price was 1.6 yuan per pound, which was not expensive at all, and they were sold out very quickly. However, no one was interested in winter bamboo shoots. Xia Huanhuan thought about it and couldn't help laughing at her own stupidity. Although the town was more lively than the village, it was still a rural area after all. Those who could come to the black market to buy things, even if they were from a wealthy family, were in need of meat, eggs, poultry, etc. The poorer ones were in need of rations such as white flour and sweet potatoes. Winter bamboo shoots were rare seasonal items in the era before she traveled through time, and they were eaten only for a short period of time. But in this era, who would be willing to spend money on some vegetarian dishes without oil and water? However, there is no market in the town, but there should still be some markets in the county and the city. So you can't sell blindly when doing business, you still have to think more. After Xia Huanhuan sold the meat, eggs, and old hens, she gave up selling winter bamboo shoots and planned to close the stall and go home. Just as she walked into the dark alley, she was stopped by the old woman who had exchanged 2 jade bracelets with her for ginseng and cotton last time.
Girl,
I finally ran into you again. The old woman was obviously very excited, grabbing Xia Huanhuan's hand and refusing to let go, fearing that she would run away. Xia Huanhuan was a little depressed. She had wrinkles on her face, and from her face, she must be a village woman in her 30s or 40s. Why didn't Yan Haotian recognize her? And the old woman also asked her to call her girl such a young name. She couldn't help but whispered, "Old lady, how can you tell that I'm young?" The old lady was stunned for a moment, then said, "My eyes can't see very clearly, but my ears are still okay." "My daughter, your voice is young." Xia Huanhuan was stunned for a moment, then couldn't help laughing. She was in the dark under the lamp, and it was not easy to disguise her voice. Before she could speak, the old lady asked anxiously, "My daughter, do you still have ginseng and other herbs for treating colds?" My niece Waner is weak and caught a cold these days. Now she has a high fever, and I'm almost dying of anxiety." Xia Huanhuan frowned slightly, feeling a little embarrassed. She did have herbs in her space, but she was not a professional doctor. Although she also stocked books on Chinese and Western medicine in her space, she was afraid of selling the wrong ones because she had herbs in her space, so she devoted herself to reading medical books such as Compendium of Materia Medica and Treatise on Febrile Diseases, but she only had a superficial understanding. Just for fever, Chinese medicine divides it into 2 types, wind cold and wind heat, and the medicine used is in 2 completely opposite directions. If this is wrong, it can be fatal. "Old lady, I have tonic medicines such as ginseng and angelica. Are you sure that the fever is caused by the cold wind? If so, you can use ephedra, cinnamon twigs, and sapochnikovia to make some medicinal soup to drink. But I'm not a professional doctor. It's safest to let a doctor take a look." When the old lady heard this, her anxious and wrinkled hands tightly grasped Xia Huanhuan. "My daughter, if I could find a doctor who is willing to see my sister Waner, I wouldn't be so anxious to run here to buy medicine myself. Please be kind. If you have medicinal materials, sell them to me. Don't worry, anything that happens is God's will. We will never blame you." "That's right," the old lady said, and quickly took out a handkerchief from the inner clothes close to her chest. After opening it, it turned out to be a small and exquisite pure gold incense burner carved into the shape of an animal. "Is this enough? If not, I'll get you something else tomorrow." The golden beast. In Li Qingzhao's Rui Nao Xiao Jin Shou refers to this kind of incense burner, which is used to burn spices and is a small item used by ladies in ancient times to fumigate clothes or rooms. Xia Huanhuan was sure that the Waner sister mentioned by the old woman was definitely from a wealthy family. Apart from the pair of jasper bracelets last time and the golden beast, made of pure gold this time, which one is not priceless? "Old lady, I'll sell you the medicine, but this incense burner is too expensive." Without waiting for Xia Huanhuan to finish, the old lady resolutely stuffed the golden beast into her hand and said, "Girl, you can say that, which shows that you are a good person. However, in this world, human life is cheaper than grass. These things can be exchanged for some food and medicine, which is life-saving. There is no more worthwhile deal than this. Besides, my sister Waner is not the kind of person who likes to take advantage of others or owe others favors. If you don't accept it, she will die, and I'm afraid she will not be willing to drink the medicine I bring back." After hearing what the old lady said, Xia Huanhuan accepted it, packed up ephedra, cinnamon twigs, sapochnikovia divaricata, and a 5-year-old ginseng weighing 5 taels, and gave it to the old lady, telling her not to use too much and to try it out. After thinking about it, Xia Huanhuan took out 2 aspirins and wrapped them in a handkerchief for the old lady. "Old lady, this is Western medicine. Your sister Waner will recognize it." The old lady looked up at Xia Huanhuan in some surprise. In fact, the hospital in the city has introduced Western medicine, but in the vast rural areas, most people still rely on barefoot doctors and Chinese medicine to treat diseases. The old lady was also from a wealthy family in that era. Although she didn't believe in these Western things, she had seen them. Xia Huanhuan didn't wait for the old lady to say anything. She nodded to her and left. She was not afraid that the old lady would report her. After all her things were stored in the space, and even if someone came to search, they would not find anything. Moreover, after these 2 contacts with the old lady, she still believed in her own vision. Even if she took a step back, she was afraid that the old lady and Sister Warner would be in a worse situation, and reporting her would only hurt herself more. Xia Huanhuan didn't take this matter to heart anymore. The next morning, Xia Huanhuan rushed to the town with the letter of introduction from the commune. Director Zheng was waiting for her. In addition to the 2 of them, there were 3 other young men from other state-owned stores in the town, all of whom went to the county to transport goods. The goods sold in the supply and marketing cooperative were mixed, and some heavy objects were asked to help these young men move or something. Anyway, they were all from the same state-owned department store, so the 3 young men had nothing to say. But along the way, seeing Xia Huanhuan blushing and her heart beating all the way, Director Zheng saw that they were intimidated by Xia Huanhuan's beauty and couldn't help but warned with a smile. Hey, don't blame me for not reminding you. You young boys are not allowed to have any bad thoughts. Huanhuan's man is in the army, and he can knock down the 3 of you. The 3 young men blushed, and one of them said embarrassedly, "Oh, Mrs. Zheng, don't be so blunt. Aren't we awake yet?" Apart from anything else, although Xia Huanhuan is from the village, she has red lips and white teeth, and her skin is as smooth as cream, which is more tender than a porcelain doll. They dare not even think about it. However, because of the companionship of Xia Huanhuan, a beautiful woman, the 3 young men worked harder than usual when helping the supply and marketing cooperative move goods. This made Director Zheng smile, and he found another reason to recommend Xia Huanhuan as a salesperson. Xia Huanhuan had no intention of being a salesperson in the town. However, she agreed to settle accounts for Director Zheng, so she did her best. The things in the supply and marketing cooperative were originally miscellaneous, ranging from needles and thread, grain, candy, to coal stoves, enamel wash basins, bicycles, etc. Every time Director Zheng had to sort out the accounts, he would spend half a day, and he always made mistakes. This time, Xia Huanhuan followed, and the accounts were calculated so clearly and beautifully. The work that was supposed to be completed in the second half of the afternoon was finished before noon. Director Zheng was happy and smiled kindly. "Huanhuan, let's go. I'll treat you to a bowl of noodles." Xia Huanhuan didn't come to the county town to eat noodles, so she smiled and said, "Director, I'm in a hurry to go to the military contact point to inquire about the situation. You guys go and eat. I'll come and meet you at 3 or 4 in the afternoon. Is that okay?" Director Zheng and the 3 young men rarely finished their work so early, and they all wanted to take the opportunity to walk around the county town. Although they regretted that Xia Huanhuan couldn't go shopping with them, she was anxious to know about her man's affairs, so they could only agree and separate. Xia Huanhuan did go to the military contact point, mainly because she was afraid that if she was found to be lying, it would be difficult to get a letter of introduction in the future. Military affairs are confidential, so the military contact point naturally knows nothing about them. Xia Huanhuan had guessed this in advance. She showed a disappointed expression on her face and was about to leave. The officer at the contact point probably couldn't bear it, so he suddenly stopped her and said, "Hey, wait a minute." Xia Huanhuan turned around and looked at the officer in astonishment. The officer didn't dare to look at Xia Huanhuan's bright and beautiful face. He coughed twice and looked away and said, "We provide telegraph services to military families here, which is half the price of the outside. Do you want to send a telegram to your man?" Xia Huanhuan was about to refuse, but then she thought that it didn't fit with her current image of anxiously waiting for her man to come home for the new year. So she had to agree. But what should she post? Strictly speaking, she and Li Zhan had only been together for more than half a day, and they were not familiar with each other at all. After racking her brains for a long time, she could only dryly write, "The 3 little guys are all good, don't worry." Even the punctuation marks were omitted, not because they were afraid of spending money, but mainly to conform to the situation of this era. In the 1970s, the normal price of sending a telegram was 4 cents per word, and the contact point offered a discount of 2 cents, so 11 words would cost 22 cents. Xia Huanhuan paid the money, and as soon as she went out, she changed her disappointed and sad expression and felt quite happy. The county town is not big, but there are two state-owned factories, a timber factory and a textile factory. Many workers who moved from other places live in rows of family buildings, which has formed a living area that is much more prosperous than the town. However, it is prosperous in that there are only a few more state-owned stores and more varieties of things, but the quantity of materials is still insufficient, and various tickets are still required to buy. Moreover, this place is different from the town and the village. People rely on the mountains to make a living. If there is not enough food and firewood, they can go to the mountains to dig some wild vegetables and pick up some firewood, but here they can only go to the store to buy. Therefore, there are long queues in front of every store. Many people queued for a day, but in the end they went home empty-handed. After observing for a long time, Xia Huanhuan found a secluded place to put on makeup on her face. Then she wrapped a green headscarf on her head, dressed like a country girl, carried a bamboo basket in her hand, and went looking in remote alleys. Sure enough, she found a place similar to the black market in a short while. Many housewives were wandering around with baskets on their shoulders. When they saw Xia Huanhuan wearing a dress with floral buttons, a headscarf, and dressed like a country girl, they immediately gathered around her. The black market in the county town is different from the one in the town. It is mainly composed of middlemen. People like Xia Huanhuan who are dressed like this usually happen to come to the county town with a letter of introduction for something and secretly sell some things by the way. Their prices are much more affordable than those of middlemen, so they are very popular with these housewives. My lady, do you have any chicken eggs, duck eggs, old hens, wild mushrooms, or something like that for sale? Xia Huanhuan was not reserved. She nodded and lifted the cloth on the bamboo basket to show them that 50 eggs, 5 pounds of wild mushrooms, and the winter bamboo shoots that were not sold in the town yesterday were all sold out in a short while. The prices were also a few cents more expensive than in the town. However, Xia Huanhuan came to the county town specifically not to do these small-scale businesses. The more people you contact, the greater the risk, and the money you earn is all small change, and you may not even be able to earn back your hard work. She mainly wanted to get close to her and inquire about information. Seeing that her prices were fair and the things were fresh and of good quality, everyone was very enthusiastic to chat with her. Sister, I heard that the families of workers in the county town eat in the factory canteen. Why do you have to come out to buy things by yourselves?
Oh,
don't mention it. The chefs in the canteen are first class, but where is there a shortage of supplies now? The canteen is also in short supply. We paid the food coupons and food money, but we can't eat anything good. It's better to buy and cook it ourselves. But this is only in the morning and evening. For lunch, the workers have to rush to work, so they still have to eat in the canteen.
Is that so?
That's similar to our rural areas. We mainly cook at home. But the chef in the canteen should have a special way to buy supplies and ingredients, right? Why can't he buy any? Do you think that we in the county have a sufficient supply of commercial grain? Even if we have money and food coupons, we can't buy it in the state-owned stores. In fact, we would rather subsidize more food money to the canteen or even buy some meat and eggs from the black market to supplement our nutrition. But let alone the state-owned stores, even if it is the black market, who is such a big hand to buy so many supplies? Even if there are middlemen, they need a lot of capital and take risks. If they sell it to us, the price is something we can't afford. In short, it's difficult. Alas. Xia Huanhuan listened and nodded continuously, and then asked step by step. After a while, Xia Huanhuan found out who was the canteen chef and the daughter-in-law of the person in charge of purchasing in the two state-owned factories. After finding out the information she wanted, Xia Huanhuan was not in a hurry to contact them, so she left the black market and wandered around the two factories. Both factories were guarded by guards, and they seemed very strict, but it happened that the two factories were unloading raw materials. The textile factory mainly produces cotton, and the best-selling product is cotton cloth. The timber factory naturally imports timber. Xia Huanhuan's heart moved. She had both cotton and timber in her space. Common willow, peach, jujube, fir, etc. in the economic forest, as well as the more rare and precious namu and rosewood, are all planted. As for cotton, there are seeds that can be planted on a large scale. If these two routes for supplying raw materials are opened, it will be a big business. However, if you want to sell to state-owned factories, the way is a bit tricky, and you can only wait for the opportunity. It is easier to supply materials to the canteens of the two factories. It was Xia Huanhuan's first time in the county town, so she could only get a general idea. At 3 or 4 o'clock, she met up with Director Zheng and others and returned to the town. It snowed on the way back to the village. The heavy snow fell down, and soon the brown earth was covered with silver. Xia Huanhuan blew warm air on her frozen red hands and couldn't help but feel happy with her eyes filled with stars. For girls, love is synonymous with romance. Who doesn't like it? But it was really cold. Xia Huanhuan admired it for a while, let the white snowflakes fall all over her body and head, then shivered and hurried back to the house. She had also taken the time to make cotton clothes for herself these days, and also it was stuffed with cotton and duck down, much warmer than ordinary cotton padded clothes, and the boots on the feet were made of rabbit fur, but even so, I was shivering from the cold. After picking up the 3 little kids from the home of the third brother Li Jie, Xia Huanhuan immediately lit the stove. After a while, the coal in the furnace was burning red, and the room became warm. The 3 little kids all raised their red hands to keep warm, and their faces were also reflected by the firelight, which was very cute. Xia Huanhuan put the big pot on the stove and boiled a pot of water. She had removed the packaging in advance and lied to the 3 kids that they bought it from the county, so they got away with it. In addition to the ribs, she took out half a caddy of mutton and half a caddy of beef, various mushrooms, Chinese cabbage, baby spinach, and other vegetarian dishes, and started hot pot around the stove. The dipping sauce was ready-made sesame paste, which is very famous in Jingshi. It is a standard for copper furnace hot pot in state-owned restaurants, but it is rarely affordable in rural areas. The beef oil base is mainly fragrant, with a layer of red oil floating on it. It is not particularly spicy. The 3 kids ate until they were sweating and their mouths were red, but they didn't say it was spicy. They ate with relish.
Mom,
what is this dish? It's delicious. Xiao Wu asked while stuffing a piece of mutton into his mouth. Xia Huanhuan smiled and said, "This is called hot pot, but it's not very authentic. People in the city like to eat it. Wait until some time. I will take you to Jingshi to eat authentic copper furnace hot pot, okay?" Of course, the 3 kids didn't understand what a copper furnace hot pot was, but they knew it must be delicious, and they all nodded vigorously with anticipation. Xia Huanhuan was also quite satisfied with the meal, and her body, which was almost frozen outside, also warmed up. After the 3 kids fell asleep sweetly in the quilt, Xia Huanhuan entered the space and soaked in the medicinal hot springs, allowing her body, which had been running all day and had sore legs and rubbed with blisters on her feet, to relax and rest. There were no cars or motorcycles in this era, and even bicycles were rare. People had to walk on their own 2 legs. It's really not an easy life. She has been walking for a whole day, and her legs are almost broken. The time and space in this space are different from those in the outside world, and the seasons are also different. Therefore, it is still a warm and breezy daytime in this space. Xia Huanhuan was not in a hurry to go out. She just soaked in the hot spring with her eyes closed and enjoyed it to her heart's content. At this moment, she suddenly heard a plop sound. Xia Huanhuan was stunned for a moment and suddenly opened her eyes. She saw a tall man in a raccoon fur coat, with a pale face and lips, sitting on the edge of the hot spring pool with a confused look on his face. Xia Huanhuan's mind went blank for a moment. She stood up from the hot spring. This is her personal space. How could anyone except her break in? The man heard the sound of water, looked at her with misty eyes, and then whispered hoarsely with bloodless lips, "Wife." Li Zhan whispered. Then his head fell, and his whole body fell to the ground, and he fainted. Xia Huanhuan came back to her senses from the shock, and realized that she was in a hot spring at this time. Without any clothes. Xia Huanhuan. Isn't it all seen just now? Xia Huanhuan's face turned red involuntarily. She quickly put on her clothes casually, hesitated for a moment, and walked in front of Li Zhan. Seeing that it was not a serious matter, Xia Huanhuan's brows could not help but frown tightly. Li Zhan was unconscious, and the blood color on his handsome face like a sculpture had faded, and his thin lips were as pale and cracked as white paper. His hair, eyebrows, and beard, which looked like they had not been trimmed for a long time, were all stained white by the wind and frost. Although he was wearing a raccoon fur coat, it had already been wet by the wind and snow, and there were several torn places. The dark brown and yellow fur was also wet. Although it was not obvious, it was obviously wet with blood. He was injured. Xia Huanhuan was frightened and subconsciously raised her hand to pat Li Zhan's face, trying to wake him up. Li. It's okay to just touch her, but Li Zhan's body temperature was so hot that she pulled her hand back suddenly. Injured and bleeding, high fever, unconscious. Each of these symptoms is fatal. Xia Huanhuan's hands and feet were trembling slightly, and for a moment, she didn't even have the strength to stand up. She raised her hand and slapped her cheek hard, took a deep breath, and then calmed down. Don't be afraid. This is her space. She has everything she wants. She will definitely be able to save him. At that moment, Xia Huanhuan did not care to avoid suspicion and lifted up Li Zhan's raccoon fur coat, revealing a cotton coat with a hole, obviously a hole left after being shot. She also unbuttoned the wet and cold cotton coat, revealing his strong chest and abdominal muscles. The wound was on the